Hello and a very good morning. Welcome to Shop on TV. I'm Hayley Green.
And I'm Sean Crawley.
And we've got a show tonight that I think perhaps you're watching for a reason. Have you not as yet written your will? And it's so important to have a legally binding will.
And maybe you just haven't got round to writing your will. Your intentions are there, but it just hasn't happened. Well, tonight we're working directly with Simpler Law. So if you do want to get in touch, you go directly to their website, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. And that'll take you through to some exclusive offers that we've got for you.
Yes.
But it's not just wills we're going to be talking about.
No, lasting power of attorney as well, both as important as each other. And honestly, if you haven't got a will in place, there is a government will which we'll tell you about, and you don't want that to happen. So please do stay with us if you've been thinking about writing a will, if you've been thinking about lasting power of attorney, and if you want some fantastic deals and you want it to be very simple, because Simpler Law do all the hard work for you. Honestly, you just need to know the answer to the questions, and if the answer to do you need a will is yes, don't go anywhere.
Yeah, stay with us. We've got lots more to tell you, and we're joined with the experts very soon.
Hello and a very good morning. Welcome to Shop on TV. I'm Hayley Green.
And I'm Sean Crawley.
And together we've got a show that I think is one of the most important shows we do, because if you haven't written a legally binding will, did you know that if you pass, there is a will that's going to fall in place? And that very much is the government will, and I'm sure it's not what you'd want to happen to what you've worked so hard for.
And we work directly on these shows with a company called Simpler Law, who are experts in the field when it comes to wills. But not only wills, we'll be talking about lasting power of attorney. And if you've heard of that term, but you're not quite sure what it means, we'll explain that as we go through the show. It's been in the press a lot about having a correct will and a lasting power of attorney.
And it is so important, honestly. And don't ever think you haven't got anything, because you will have probably the property you live in, you'll probably have the car that you drive, perhaps it's jewellery, perhaps it's, perhaps it's a family heirloom, but you know what you want to happen with these things, but you must write it down legally. Now, I know for us, and we've been married, no we haven't, we're not married. Gosh,
who
I just
are you married to?
We're not married at all.
This is a surprise to me.
I'm lying. We've been together 34 years, but we're not married.
It feels like we have been.
So the government will, everyone's really shocked. Like, when did you get married? I was shocked. I was like, oh my goodness, when did that happen? I did dream about it the other night, actually. Oh my goodness, it's stuck in my head, honestly. So the government will for us would be completely a no-go. It'd be completely wrong. And I think for absolutely, whether you're married with children from different relationships, it just doesn't work.
And that's what falls into place if you haven't got a legally binding will. Now, working directly with Simpler Law, we've got some fantastic exclusive offers.
Because we thought it'd be really expensive.
Yes,
we thought it'd be really complicated. And honestly, with Simpler Law, it is so simple. But price-wise, you have got, oh my word, the prices we absolutely love. An extra 20% off if you get in contact with us before close of business on Friday. So having a look at the details right there, if you are thinking about getting a will at full price, it's what you've worked so hard for, you know where you want things to go, £249, I'd be happy to spend that. However, our regular deal, normally £124. However, you have got up until close of business on Friday, but do it now so you don't forget. You've got an extra 20% off, so £99 is your price tonight. And of course, you can split that into 4 easy payments, interest-free, £24.75 is the first of those 4 payments. And I bet you spend more than that on coffee or on so many different random things that we buy.
Oh my goodness, £24.75 is nothing nowadays, isn't it? So your first of 4 interest-free payments, £24.75 if you choose to split the cost directly with Simpler Law. Then you can see the lasting power of attorney. Now, even on suggested retail price at £349, it's a good price. Our offer price should have been £239, but whilst we have this offer till close of business on Friday, the price will drop drop down to an extra 20% discount. It comes down to £189. And with those 4 interest-free payments, again, you can split the cost £47.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments there.
And as you watch the show, you might think, you might get in contact and just ask about the wills, but as you watch the show, think, I wish I'd done will and lasting power of attorney. As long as you secure the prices tonight, you can choose whichever option you want to go with. So if you decide to do the will and lasting power of attorney, you've got the biggest saving there. Should be £598. You can see there you've got a great price at what it should be, £315, but it's even better. You've got that extra 20% off, so £249 is your price this evening, and then you can split that cost over 4 payments. £62.25 is the first of those 4 payments. The first actual 250 clients will also get a fantastic book that we'll tell you about, which is What My Family Should Know, worth £25. That's the first 250. Always disappears, and it's so easy to get in contact with us. So you can either use the website, you can go via our website actually, but you're going by Simpler Law. You can use the phones or you can text. So you've got 3 really easy ways.
And it's directly with Simpler Law, as you can see there. simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. You can call the teams in the centre. They're there right through till 3 a.m. 0333 600 2600. Or you can text the word will. That's always the busiest. WILL to 66777. However, if you want to go through our website, if you're used to using our website, just go to the website and scroll down, shopontv.co.uk, click on the Simpler Law logo there, and it takes you directly through to those exclusive offers that we are talking about. All the extra 20% there. You scroll down, you fill in that form. It's simple, it's straightforward, and you've taken that first step to writing your will. You've taken that first step to writing and getting a lasting power of attorney, whichever you want to go for. It really is that first step that's so important.
It is, and that's the thing we put off, and then you realise after you've done that will or lasting power of attorney, just a weight lifts off your shoulders. And the worry that it was going to be really complicated and really difficult has gone, because it's a sit-down conversation with Simpler Law that make it so easy. You don't need to find anything, you just need to know you want to get that will done, and you've got all the answers, and Simpler Law have got all the questions. So don't go anywhere. I think you switched on for a reason, so stay with us. We'll be back in a sec. Hello and a very good morning. Welcome to Shop on TV. I'm Hayley Green.
And I'm Sean Crawley.
Together we've got a show for you that I think you've switched on perhaps for a reason, because have you written your will yet? Have you been thinking about it? Have you been reading about it in the press? Because if you haven't written a legally binding will, sadly there is a will that will fall into place, and that's what we call the government will. And honestly, it just isn't right for anybody. One will can't work for everybody. So you must get ahead of that and sort your will out, and we're going to make it so easy tonight. It's
about taking that first step with us here at Shop on TV, but we're working directly with experts in the field with Simpler Law. We'll talk about how easy it is to get in touch, the exclusive offers we've got, but it's not just wills, it's also lasting power of attorney that we'll be talking about. And again, you might have heard of that term in the press recently. The offers that we've got for you, however, are excellent, but they are time limited.
They are. Close of business on Friday. I would just get in contact tonight. You don't need to know anything tonight. It is just to get in contact to secure these prices. Then Simpler Law will get in contact with you to sort out a good, convenient time to sit down and talk about things. So if you're looking at getting a will, now I always thought it'd be thousands of pounds. At full price, £249, it's still an exceptional price. Our normal price would be £124, but right now you've got an extra 20% off. It's one of our favourite offers, backed by popular demand. £99 is your price tonight. So if you missed out last time, grab it whilst we've still got that offer available. You can split that cost to 4 payments, so £24.75 is the first of those 4 payments, which when you think, what would you spend on £24.75? Easily, oh my goodness, it disappears, doesn't it? I bet you spend more on coffee. You definitely spend more if you buy glasses of wine at the and I'm not even going to mention petrol tonight. So honestly, it's so affordable, but it's so important to get that will written. But then you have got as well lasting power of attorney.
Yeah, and if you've heard of that term but you're not quite sure what it means, we'll explain how lasting power of attorney is just as important as getting a will. Now, it should be $349. It comes down to $239 on the offer price, but with the extra 20% off, £189. And that on the 4 interest-free payments, $47.25 on your first of 4 payments there if you're spreading the cost.
And you can easily spend that more than that on a takeaway.
Easily.
And you might be watching, you might get in contact and think, yes, I definitely need a will, and you definitely do need a will, whatever situation you're in. You don't want that government will to fall in place. But as you're watching the show, you might think, oh, I wish I'd done will and lasting power of attorney. As long as you secure the prices tonight, you can choose the option that you want to go for when you talk to the team when they get back to you. So will and lasting power of attorney is the biggest saving. Should be, well, virtually £600. Our normal price would be $315, but you are saving an extra 20% tonight. Remember, get in contact now. You've got till close of business on Friday to get that price of £249 and split that cost over those 4 payments. £62.25 is the first of those 4 payments. The other reason to do it right now is the first 250 people will also get this fabulous book. It's worth £25, and this book, oh good, I've always said you should have it from birth, but that's a bit early, I think. But actually from working, this has got so many vital bits of information that people will be hunting for, and some things are on tablets and computers now.
It's not just about pensions and bank accounts, it's about passwords for social media, for your tablet, for your phone, so that everything's in one place, easily accessible, so that when you do need to find everything, it's in that book. First 250 people will get that book who take up the offer. And to get in touch, that's really simple as well, really straightforward. You can go directly to Simpler Law. If you want to use the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. You can call the team in the call centre. They're there, they're ready to take your calls, and we know they'll be really busy, especially at this time. 0333 600 2600. Imagine being able to get a will that's legally binding for less than £100, and you're just taking that first step. But the busiest is always the texting service, isn't it?
It is. The team will be on the phones until 3 a.m, but actually if you're sat there with your phone in your hand, which you probably are, the most quick and the simplest way, you haven't got to speak to anybody, you just text the word will to 66777. You've done probably and taken the biggest step, done the hardest work, and you've done it by texting will to 66777. That's it. You know that you will then get that will sorted. You've secured the prices, but of course, if you're used to going via our website, you can do that as well. Go to the first page and scroll down. About halfway through, you see our partners, and Simpler Law is right there. If you click onto that, that'll take you through to the Simpler Law website, and then you can see all your deals for tonight. Remember, it's those prices till close of business on Friday, but I would do this right now. And this is really quick and easy, just filling in that very simple form and submitting, and the job is done. You know you've secured those
And
deals.
the other thing to say is you don't need any forms with you, you don't need anything with you whatsoever. You're just taking that first step to secure the offers that we've just told you about. Like we say, we're working directly with Simpler Law. We're here right through till 3 a.m, and the team are joining us. Ian and Georgia are with us from Simpler Law. Lovely to see you both again.
Morning.
And now we've got lots to talk about, but I think we should start with the basics, Ian, because everybody needs a will, don't they?
Absolutely. I think you said it at the top of the show, basically. There's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of misconceptions out there, and there's not a great deal of information readily available to people. So it can come as quite a shock to some families when they lose a loved one and they think they know, or they think they believe everything that was going to happen or should happen, and actually because that person didn't make their own will, they're said to have died intestate, which is basically meaning that they've died needing the government will. So there's a default position that every adult has in the UK. So if we pass away without making our own will, the government basically say, well, here's one that we've done for you.
I don't think people realise that. People are thinking, well, I told the kids know what I want to happen, and that's not going to happen. It doesn't matter, does it? Because that government will fall in place instantly, and that's what we're looking at here, and it's yes or no questions.
Yeah, it is exactly that, isn't it, Ian? A series of yes/no questions.
That's exactly it. That graphic is obviously a simplification of it, but essentially, if someone passes away, There is no in-between either. You either pass away with your own will that you've created that's valid, or you pass away without a will. And if you pass away without a will, a series of questions are asked about you, and those are the questions that you can see on the screen there. And it all starts, that first question is, are you married or in a civil partnership? Not are you partners, not are you in love, not are you cohabiting. And I've been doing this for nearly 30 years, and I've heard all kinds of things, you know, like, well, we've lived together for 2 years, so we have certain rights, or we're common law husband. Common law husband and wife is what we hear quite often.
Yeah.
But the law's very, very simple. You're either married or in a civil partnership, or you aren't. And in the same way, you either pass away with a valid will in place, or you don't. And if you're sat listening to this now and you're thinking to myself, well, I'm sure everything will be okay for us, all I would do is just ask yourself why you think that. Because there's a lot of, I've come to realise it's not a presumption anymore, it's more of a hope. That, well, I hope everything will be okay.
Yeah.
Please don't trust a hope when it comes to this, because if you've not made your own will, I promise you that when you pass away, none of your wishes are taken into account at all. And people are quite shocked by that, going, but it's my estate and it's my family. But actually, if you don't make your will, the government, the rules of intestacy, that piece of legislation that's over 100 years old.
That is the thing, it's so old. Life was so different then, and it still wouldn't have really worked then, but now life's a lot more complicated, isn't it? People are married and they've got children from different partners, but they live as one big family, but that government will won't see that.
No, it really sounds melodramatic, but the government will can literally rip families apart today. You know, over 100 years ago, it wasn't really commonplace for people to get divorced, and it certainly wasn't commonplace for people to then get remarried and sort of had this blended dynamic families you've just described. We're not shocked now if we speak to a client and we say, oh, you know, are you married? And they say, yes, it's our second time for both of us. And they might have children from previous relationships, they might have children together. Literally, the rules of intestacy cannot cope with that family dynamic. And in a lot of cases, what it actually means is some children are disinherited. Because again, it all follows your bloodline. So you might see your family as a complete unit, and rightly so, but when you pass away, the rules of intestacy don't see you as a complete family unit because it follows your bloodline. So forgive the finger puppets, but Mr. could die first, leave everything to Mrs., and when Mrs. dies, his children that he had from a previous relationship are disregarded completely, and it will all follow Mrs.'s bloodline. And again, people go, no, that's not right. I can't believe that's true.
Yeah.
I promise you that's true. And that's why we do these shows, is we want people to realise that if you try and leave it to chance or leave it to hope, what you hope is going to happen isn't going to happen, because the rules of intestacy doesn't care about us. It's just a default position. So please, if you're watching this tonight, you've got a brilliant opportunity. Text the word will to 66777. We will call you back. Or the team are there now ready to take your call. The hardest thing about this process is doing one of those two things.
Yeah.
Picking up the phone or sending a text. After that, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And here's the risk-free bit, if you like. If, as you're going through the consultation with us, it's not as we've described, and if you're going, do you know what, this is not for me, just say this is not for me and we'll give you your money back.
Correct.
There is no risk to doing this, and there's absolutely no regret neither. No. Because we've never met anyone that's gone, I wish I hadn't made a will.
I think it's a big lift off your shoulders, you know, and it's knowing that what you want to happen is going to happen, because sadly it really isn't unless you have a legally binding
with
will.
your wishes. It's all about your wishes. You write down what you want.
Yeah, and it might be that you don't want things to go to certain people. It might be that, and it's not just monetary things. It's guardians for children. There's so much that you can do.
Well, we've got a list we can show you. With a will, it's not just about money. It's about everything else that you can do with your will. And Georgia, just run us through some of the things, because people think initially it's about the money that I've got, but there's so much more, isn't there?
Oh, there's a myriad of things it covers. I mean, one could be funeral wishes. So do you want to be cremated? You can actually specify in there how you would like that to go, or certain wishes in relation to your funeral that you want people to follow. Another one is guardians of minor children, so young children under the age of 18. You know, who do you want to look after them? You know, it's got to be somebody you trust.
So
that's huge, isn't it? I mean, that could cause a family upset, couldn't it? If two sets of grandparents, both sisters, sister-in-laws.
Or fighting, you know, and it triggers all sorts of scenarios that ultimately you want to avoid, not only for yourself, your loved ones, but for your children as well.
Of course.
But another very common one, pets. You know, people love their pets.
As
sometimes
much as
more
their
than people.
children,
Yes,
if
they
not
do.
more
Yeah,
sometimes.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, they want to put emphasis, you know, who they want to look after them. Sometimes they want to leave a fund for them to make sure they're well cared for.
Right.
And you can sort all of that out.
In
All of
your
it.
will.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we saw on that list there as well, that I think is really important, is the age that children inherit.
Yeah, I hadn't
Absolutely.
thought of that.
Yeah.
Because the standard is 18. is it?
18 legally, but I mean, I don't know about most other people, but I wasn't the best at 18.
Not ready for a big inheritance.
No,
I'll be honest,
absolutely
George, I've
not.
heard you're not the best now, but
Depends on the shopping
They
trip.
sit him too far away for me to kick now.
you can still throw things at
But
them.
you hear of lottery winners, don't you? They're winning the lottery and they've
Yeah.
lost it by the
Yeah.
time they're 19 or 20. They've spent it.
No, in all seriousness, you know, that we don't talk anecdotally about this. We know for a fact when we speak to parents of young children and we ask what age would you like your children to inherit, the vast, vast majority will say, ooh, can it be 21? Can it be 23? Because they think 18 might be a bit too young.
Yeah.
Or they can stagger it.
Yeah.
So they receive a certain percentage at 18, then a little bit more as they get older. And the key to making your own will is this. When that list went up on the screen there, you'll notice that it said you choose. So, you know, you choose what's right for your children. You know your children better than the government. You know your children better than we do. You know, at the end of the day, when we're giving you advice, you're giving us all the information so that we can give you that advice, but you know your family and your estate better than us, and it's your will at the end of the day. And that's the really important thing about this, is what you get at the end of it is yours. And that's going to be your last act on planet Earth, and that's going to be your last gift to your family. If you don't make a will, your last act on planet Earth actually isn't yours.
No.
This set of rules from over 100 years ago kicks in and says, right, were they married or not? Have they got children or not? Have they got brothers and sisters? What does the family... And people might say, yeah, but Dad wanted to leave his watch to such and such. The rules of intestacy don't care about that. And it's actually it's the main reason for a breakdown in family relationships is a bereavement where there isn't a will. Because emotions are high, people are arguing about what they think should be happening, and ultimately the law steps in and the rules of intestacy say, well, whatever anyone thinks is now redundant because you've got to follow this.
This has to happen, yeah.
Which is much nicer when you can go, actually, what everyone thinks is redundant because the person who passed away actually did make a will and this is what they want to happen. And that also means that you're going to be guaranteed that you're going to maximise your inheritance tax thresholds, that everything's going to be done correctly. Because sometimes the biggest beneficiary, unfortunately, from a will can be the taxman.
Oh,
Gosh.
So all these things, there's so much that can go wrong that can be fixed in a phone call.
And I think so many people
hardly
would
any
be
time at all.
just devastated if you were... I don't know what happens when you pass, but I'd like to think Dad's looking down on us, and I think you'd just be devastated to look down on your family and seeing them fall out because they know what you wanted, but what you wanted isn't happening because you didn't write that will. By writing a will, it is like the last gift to your loved ones, and what you've worked so hard for, what you want to happen is going to happen if you've written a legally binding will, but sadly if you haven't, it's not, and it's just so important. And I think it's in the press quite a lot recently because sometimes you just don't find out until it's too late.
Yeah, until it is too late. There's lots of stories we'll share with you throughout the show, stories that you've come across, Ian, through people not writing wills.
Yeah.
There's so many, isn't there?
Oh, you could do a full show on just
We
just
could
horror
do 3
stories.
hours, couldn't we?
And this, truthfully, you know, this isn't scaremongering because there's a lot of people when I talk to them about what can happen without a will, think that it's like just want to scare you, and it's like we don't. We want to educate people.
Yeah, there's situations that have actually happened, don't they?
And these real situations are all avoidable. You know, single people are passing away and they've not made a will because perhaps they don't think they need to make one. And then it's ended up with a family member that they don't want it to go to.
Tell us that story, because I do think a lot of people, if there's... we don't know, the story Ian's going to tell us, we don't know why this gentleman didn't write a will. But I think if you are on your own, you're not married, you haven't got children, you'd perhaps think, well, I'll wait till I'm in a relationship, or perhaps I'll wait till we've had kids.
Yeah,
But
got married. That's a lot
I'm
of people like
certain
that.
he would be devastated if he'd known what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I truly don't think he realised how important a will is to a single person.
Yeah, you're quite right. We'll never know, but you can make some assumptions. One thing to say very quickly is that if you make a will today, it's going to be right for you today, but there's nothing to stop you amending that and keeping that up to date as we move forward, which, you know, because you've hit the nail on the head. Sometimes people put off making a will because I've got this big change coming in a year, or I've got another change coming in 6 months.
Yeah.
The only time to make or do anything is now. But yeah, this young man, I remember seeing the story on the TV, in fairness, and he was only in his mid to late 40s. He was single, he'd never had children, and he died totally suddenly, totally unexpectedly. And the story was told by his surviving mom, so that's already horrible, and his brother. And basically the backstory was, excuse me, that when this gentleman was born, his dad left his mom. So she was left to bring up 2 boys effectively as a single parent, and the dad was never heard from again. There was no birthday cards, no contact, and certainly no monetary provision. And when this gentleman died, he died without a will, so he died intestate, so he got the government will. The first question that was asked of him was he married? And of course the answer was no. The next question then in those series of questions is, did he have children? And again, the answer was no. The next question was, did he have parents? The answer was yes. So his mom, and no parent should have to bury a child, but his mom then has to track down her ex-husband, who she's not seen for decades, and say, our son's passed away, and by the way, you're entitled to half of everything that he earned. And everybody
say that's just so wrong.
It's not right.
And you almost get a repulsion.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this isn't fair. And unfortunately, again, the law doesn't really care about fairness. And I can't stress enough, that's why we do these shows, isn't it? Is to say to people, please don't sit there and think that everything will be okay or everything will go the way that you hope it will go, because unless you actually make a will for yourself, the government will be used. That piece of legislation, that law will kick in, and you're said to have died intestate. And again, you see the questions on the screen again. The first question is very simple: are you married in civil partnership? And you said earlier that, well, you nearly married yourself off here.
Yeah, I did. I was married at the top of the show, but it was just a dream. So
I think we have confirmed it's 34.
Or a nightmare.
I think we have confirmed it's 34 years you've both been together now.
We're happy with 34 now. Yes, we get confused.
But again, there'll be a lot of people that will think automatically, like you said, all your family, all your loved ones know that you're a couple. You've built a life together. Of course, what's yours is his, and what's his is yours, etc., etc. But the law doesn't see it like that without a will. So even it doesn't matter whether it's been 3 minutes or 34 years, unmarried couples have absolutely no rights and no provision for each other at all. And again, people are like, that can't be true.
I think so many people out there will be like, but that's what I've been told. That's got to be right. But
there's always John in the pub, Georgia.
There is indeed, and I think as well it's not widely advertised what happens or how you do it.
It's
things
not
like
something
that.
you look into.
We've only learnt through you. We had no idea.
Yeah, well, you only see it on TV when something's gone wrong in the news, or you know whatever it may be. And I think a lot of people do think that the process is overly complicated, perhaps overly morbid, that type of thing, and very expensive.
And it's none of those things, is it? That's the thing we've learnt through working with you guys, that it's really affordable, it's really easy to do, and it's just taking that first step, isn't it?
And sometimes it's the first step we're rubbish at. We want to get things done. We've got a stair carpet, desperately needs doing. But the only reason we haven't had it done is we just haven't got round to making the phone call or even going into the shop to have a look at the car. That first step, I think we put up, life gets in the way, doesn't it? We'll wake up tomorrow, something else will happen, you'll take the kids to school, you'll go to work, then all of a sudden it'll be spring, and then before you know it, it'll be summer, you'll be booking your summer holiday, then before you know it, you're thinking about Christmas. The time goes so quickly and you don't get round to it. But this is something awfully that at one point it will just be too late, and you would be devastated, I think, if you realise that government law is going to fall into place. And perhaps that's why you switched on tonight, to realise that there is a will that will fall into place if you haven't written your own legally binding will.
And the price isn't something that should put you off, because we've got great offers until the close of business on Friday. We've got an extra reduction. So let's run you through those offers again. I've got a feeling we're going to be really busy tonight because it's a really early start for us on both ITV and STV. The will itself is what we're talking about. And even at £249, that would be a great price for something like this.
I thought it would be thousands. I thought it'd be a big cost. So you can see there, 249 goes down with us to our regular price of 124. But you have got, we love the 20% off, and we've managed to get it back once more. So at the moment, you have got it at £99, takes it under £100, and you can split that cost with over 4 payments. So £24.75 is the first of those 4 payments, and we spend that so easily, don't we? When you pop into the shop to get some milk and all of a sudden you've spent £40–50, and what you spend on coffee is crazy, I know.
Takeaway coffee is over a week, easily.
That's your will. Done, written, what you want to happen is going to happen. So affordable and so easy with Simpler Law.
We are going to talk about lasting power of attorney shortly, but just to remind you, the offer here is excellent as well. And even if you change your mind once you've secured one of the offers, you'll be able to add in lasting power of attorney, change it to the will and lasting power of attorney. But £349 comes down to £239 on the normal offer, but with the extra 20% off, it comes down to £189, and that's £47.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. We often talk about trying to get a takeaway for less than £50.
We struggle to get,
just for the two of us, isn't it? So honestly, it's so affordable. The best offer of all is if you go for the will and lasting power of attorney. That should be almost £600.
Yeah, our regular price, because we always have a good deal, is $315, but of course you've got an extra 20% off, so $249 is your price, and split that cost as well. So $62.25 is the first of those 4 payments, and that is your biggest saving. Now, don't worry if you phone up and say I want the will, and then as you watch the show think, oh, I wish I'd done lasting power of attorney and the will. You will be able to change as long as you secure those prices. It is until close of business on Friday you've got these deals, but we always say do it right now for a couple of reasons. One, because you will forget. Our producer's done it tonight because she's like, I'm not going to forget this time. But also the first 250 people get this fabulous book. And I think everybody that's working should have this book. This book is... well, Ian, you can tell us a little bit about why it was put together, because vital information that people would be hunting for if they lost somebody.
Yeah, there's a role in a will called an executor, and that's the person or the people that you appoint to actually administer your estate. And one of their jobs, if you like, is to gather in everything that person's got, so understand what it is that they own, so it can then be distributed through the will. And so this was born out of that department, really, because that can be one of the challenges, finding out what everyone's got. Some pretty scary statistics came out of putting this together. In the UK, it's believed that there's £5 billion worth of pension pots that have gone unclaimed because they've never... £5 billion.
Gosh.
But I was thinking about this and thinking, did I know how many jobs my dad had? No. I mean, my dad was at pensionable age, so he got his pensions, but some people pass away with pension pots that aren't claimed. Yeah. But £5 billion. £2 billion in unclaimed life insurance policies, again, policies that haven't been found, and in the region of £850 million just sat in bank accounts that, again, haven't been found. But then it became more than that. So you mentioned earlier as well, you know, we're in the digital age now. I grew up in an era where we had the photo album where you creaked it up and it all stuck and it went a bit yellowy and it had Whitby 1971 written at the bottom of it. And of course, a lot of our memories now are in digital vaults in the cloud, etc. And they're often accessed by PINs or by passwords. And if you don't pass those on by some mean or method, they can be lost as well because it just can't be accessed. So that just allows you to sit down, just take stock of what you've got, you know, make a brew, put it together and, and keep it safe with your will.
And it's all in that one place, so you're not hunting around for all that information.
My ones have so many secret places, I won't even know where to start. But in that book, it's all written down. So if you know you're like that, it's just going to make it so much easier and easy to find absolutely everything. So that the first 250 people will also get that book. Remember, it's so easy to get in contact, and there's various ways. You don't have to speak to anybody if you don't want to. There are people on the phone right now. So you can either go via email, so simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV, where you'll fill in a very simple form, or jump on the phones. The team are there until 3 a.m.
0333 600 2600 is the number. And just to remind you, you don't need anything with you, you don't need any information or documents. It's just taking that first step and securing these offers that we're talking about. The most popular way is always the texting service. Just text the word WILL, WILL, to 662 777. That means you've secured the offer. You don't have to speak to anyone, as Hayley said. The team will get back in touch with you over the next couple of days to secure the appointment.
Yeah, so even if you're off on holiday for a couple of weeks, or you know you're not going to be available for 2 or 3 weeks, it doesn't matter. They'll get back in contact with you, and you can say, well, you know, I'm really busy, or I'm away for a couple of weeks. Could we speak? And you can sort a date that's right for you. But what you've done is secured that extra 20% off. You've secured those prices. And if you're used to going via our website, you can go up via our website as well. But I know the phones and I know the texting is always busy, but via our website, really easy too.
Yeah, just scroll down to our on-screen partners, click on the Simpler Law logo, takes you straight through to those exclusive offers. Scroll down a little bit further and fill in that form. Honestly, 10 seconds it took our producers to fill it out, and that's how long it'll take you, and you've secured the offers we're talking about. But we are going to talk more about wills and some of the scenarios that could happen. Don't think you haven't got anything, for one thing, because if you've got a house,
I think
or
sometimes,
a car,
yeah, you think, well, I haven't got, you know, much money. It's not just money. You probably have got your house and your car, but then actually, could be your pets, could be your children that you're worried about. It could be a family heirloom. It could be a ring. Honestly, there's so much that you can do with a will. And then some of you might be at home thinking, well, I've thought about doing one of those templates.
Yes, a template. Ian, what do you think about templates?
And you have to pay for these anyhow.
Yeah.
But sadly, it's really confusing, I think, the legally how things are worded.
Yeah.
And it can make things really complicated to try and do it yourself.
I think it's a little bit dangerous in the sense that it frustrates me that there's something that's quite technical, that you can just go and sort of buy this off-the-shelf thing that's not going to give you any advice. So if you text us tonight or you pick up the phone tonight, as opposed to buying a template, we will send you some information straight away and say, this is what we want you to think about and this is what we want you to consider. We'll then make an appointment with you at a time that suits you. You're then going to speak to a consultant whose sole job, only job, is to help you get the will that's right for you, and that's what they do every single day. You don't come to us for a boundary dispute or a personal injury claim or anything like that. We specialise in this area alone. We're then going to give you advice as we go through. It's up to you how much of that advice, if any, that you take. And we're going to ask you a series of questions because we've got all the questions, but you've certainly got all the answers. And only when you're 100% happy with everything you've told us and you're 100% happy with everything we've told you, will we then go on and draft that will. And if throughout the consultation process you think, do you know what, this is not for me, just say, I'll have my money back, please. This is not for me, and we'll give you your money back. Once you've got your documents, we'll then talk you through actually getting them signed, dated and witnessed correctly. Because even in this digital age, the will's actually not valid until it's got a wet signature on it, it's being witnessed correctly. So we help you with all of that as well. And to back all of that up, we also pay a small fortune to have something called professional indemnity insurance, which is actually there to protect you. So if we make a mistake, then you're protected and your beneficiaries are protected. And that is very high level, but that's the process you get from us. If you buy a template, good luck.
I think that really underpins the main principle of making a will as well. We mentioned earlier about people, potentially finding it difficult, but when it comes to it, the whole point of our service is that we simplify it and we take all that legal jargon and that the complex technical stuff, we deal with it. Yeah,
people are afraid of that, aren't they? The legal terminology. Yeah. Whereas you simplify it. It's when you say it's a hand-holding service, because Hayley, you went through the process with your mum with
we met Simpler Law actually doing my mum's lasting power of attorney way before they worked with us here on Shop on TV. And the lady we dealt with, she became a friend. We sort of did a video call with her so I could sit with mum and it was just so easy. And it was we didn't. Myself and my mum are the biggest worriers there are, and honestly, if there's lights flashing behind me, I feel like I've done. It's me. And I haven't done it. I'm just frightened of everything. I'm frightened of long words. I'm going to feel daft. And not at one point did I feel I was asking a silly question. At one point did I feel I was daft. The lady made us feel so comfortable. She became a friend. I felt I could email her if I'd forgotten to ask something, and it just made it so easy. And we were instantly, as soon as we were talking to her,
At ease.
Like,
yeah.
this is actually, we don't need to know anything. We're not fools. We've got all the answers, or Mum had got all the answers, and it's a sit-down conversation like we're having tonight. And Simpler Law, or your member from Simpler Law, because you won't talk about Simpler Law. You'll talk about Marion, or you'll talk about Sharon, or you'll talk about the people that you sit down and talk to.
I think that's really important to point out as well, Georgia. Once you've got a consultant, you stick with that same person, don't you, through the whole process?
Absolutely. We take you right from start all the way to the finish. You know, we follow up with calls, make sure everything's okay, you're happy with it, and it's all done from the comfort of your own home.
And that's another great point, actually, because I think some people think, oh, you'll have to go into the office. It's not, is it? It's
No, absolutely not. As long as you have a cup of tea and a blanket and get put it up on the
Nice
sofa,
and
you're good to
cozy.
go. Yeah.
Great. And that also puts you at ease, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
that's the great thing. We talk about the reviews and the people and the consultants, so let's share some of those reviews with you. When it comes to the reviews, it's always the people that get mentioned. So Alan said, our consultant Charlotte explained everything in clear, unambiguous terms. Pricing was made clear and cooling off period was explained. Consultant was very pleasant and caring and sensitive to our needs. All necessary legal terms were explained in plain and simple English, and that's exactly what you want. That one from Alan that you're looking at right there. So it is that straightforward when it comes to getting yourself a will, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think it can be
Daunting.
well, yeah.
Scary.
It can be very daunting, very scary. I think if you try and do those templates, which I know a couple did, and because they didn't know the legal termination, you know, the correct wording, it could have gone, well, it sadly did go horribly wrong.
It's almost worse when someone uses a template because you can decipher what their wishes were, and if it's not quite being done correctly, that can almost
That's
be worse
isn't it?
than dying intestate. It's like you knew you needed a will, you had obviously very clear wishes. Please just use a professional to do it.
Yeah.
I want to be really clear, we're not patronising when we go through this process. It is a hand-holding service, as you were saying. We understand that a lot of people, it'll be the first time, sometimes the only time that they actually go through this process. We just want to make sure that you get it right. And once you've done it, you can then just put it to one side, forget about it, and get on with your life. But the reason I say this is a really selfless act is you will get something out of this when you go through the consultation process. It's quite a cathartic thing, and you will feel the weight lift. Sometimes it's quite a heavy weight you didn't know you were carrying. Sometimes you'll find something out during the consultation that will shock you. But when you make your own will, you know that you're going to get the document that's right for you. So that is selfless, because what you're saying is to the people that you love and the people that you leave behind is, I've taken care of that, and it's your last gift to them. So it's a really, really selfless act that you're doing. But we can only help you if you text us and give us that call. Give us a try. Put us to the test. What we're saying to you, these testimonials that we have, the 5-star Trustpilot rating, they all come from our consultants who are highly trained, and it is just their sole job to help you get the right will for you.
You are award-winning, and I know you're up for another award as well, aren't you?
We might be nominated for a few.
Saw that the other day. Yeah, there's several. I
Yes.
think there were. You can see though here, estate planning firm of the year, Simpler Law winner. And you always talk about it's the entire team that gets this award, isn't it? That creates it, really.
Yeah, I mean, the consultants are the people that you speak to. You know, when you speak to us tonight or this morning, you'll be speaking to one of the consultants. When you go through the consultation, it's the consultant that holds your hand. But of course, there's a whole team, from the diary planners to the administrative side of it. You know, even the printing and professionally binding. There's a whole machine just to get this right for, you know, for the client. And I'd like to say that it was all down to me, the award, but I think we would have probably got one sooner if I wasn't here. But no, look, it was obviously a real moment of pride for all of us, because, you know, we talk about putting the client at the heart of everything that we do, and that was recognition of that. And yes, we might have been recognised for a few more as well.
Yes.
But we can only help you if you get in touch. We can't telepathically do this for you. So the reason we do these shows, truthfully, is one, to hopefully just, without, again, patronising, just educate a little bit and say, look, if you didn't know, making a will is really important, because the opposite to not having a will, or the fact of not having a will, can be quite catastrophic. But please, pick up that phone tonight or send that text. You've probably got your phone in your hand now. If you just text the word will to 66777, we will call you back, and that's something you'll never regret doing, because no one ever regrets making a will. but your family might regret one day that you didn't, and that's why it's a selfless thing to do.
And you've got nothing to lose, have you?
Nothing at all.
At all.
No, real peace of
Honestly.
mind.
I stopped for my pretentious coffee on the way.
Go on, how much? One coffee?
£6.70.
Embarrassing.
And yet I still went to the supermarket to buy, but I got a deal with a certain discount code, so I was very happy. I bought a can of coffee for almost a similar sort of price. It'll give me about 50 cup. But that's the mentality, isn't it? And you know, it's a treat. But when we're talking about making a will, sometimes the barrier is it's going to be really expensive. Well, it literally can be. I mean, okay, I drink a pretentious coffee, but it can be the equivalent of one coffee a week. That's it isn't expensive. People think it might be morbid or complicated. I assure you it's not. In a lot of cases, people surprise themselves because they have quite a laugh. Because it's about you and your family, and all kinds of things come out of the process. And I suppose the last one is, I think people think that the language might be beyond them as well, and it's going to be super duper technical, and it just isn't that at all. Every now and then there might be one little word that we have to use, but we'll tell you what that means.
What that means. I think that's so important. That's the one thing that you might be worried about, the confusion of legal terminology. Everything's explained for you as well. The other thing is the offer. Remember, these offers until close of business Friday. So let's remind you, it's not just wills, it's lasting power of attorney as well. We're going to talk about that in just a couple of moments. But your will is so affordable.
I think, we thought it'd be possibly thousands, £249. If you know what you want to happen with what you've worked so hard for will happen when you write that legally binding will. £249 is a great price, but actually we always do an offer. £124 is our regular offer. However, you have got the deal we love, an extra 20% off. So whilst we have got that deal available, backed by very popular demand, because it is till close of business on Friday, so if you missed out last time, please grab it whilst we've had the opportunity to get that 20% back. And of course you can split that £99 to 4 payments. £24.75 is the first of those 4 payments. And we were talking about prices of coffee, and prices are, you pop into the supermarket to get a pint of milk and then suddenly come out and you spent £50. £24.75, 4 payments of that will be money so well spent. What you want to happen is going to happen because you've written a legally binding will. But lasting power of attorney, we're going to go into detail about that. You might have heard of it, but not too sure what it's all about.
Lasting power of attorney, and we've got a combination of wills and lasting power of attorney. Remember, we're going to talk you through lasting power of attorney if you're not sure what it means, but the deals here are spectacular, massively reduced in price, and you've got the extra 20% off. And if you do secure one offer, maybe you start with the will and then you change your mind, you want to add in the lasting power of attorney, we will be able to add that in for you because you've secured the offers for yourself. Very easy to get in touch, very simple and straightforward. You can scan the QR code on screen, or you can go to simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. You can call the team, they're in the call centre right through till 3 a.m. 0333 600 2600. Or you can text the word will, and that's always the most busy. Spectacularly busy on these shows when we start so early, so text the word will, WILL, to 66777.
Yeah, if the call centre's busy, they'll get back to you as soon as they possibly can, but please, that's the easiest thing. If you've got the phone in the palm of your hand, probably, you haven't had to speak to anybody, you haven't even had to think, you've just texted will to 66777.
And you've taken that first step.
That's it. And that's it. You've secured all those prices, and then somebody will get back in contact with you in the next couple of days to sort out a time that's convenient for you to sit down and chat about it. But of course, what you'll also get is that fabulous book. We've got 250 of those books worth £25, which I think is a book every person that's working should have, where you write down all the information that your loved ones will be looking for, even the passwords to your phones. It might be that there's really important photographs on your phone or on the tablet, and they're lost. And often people don't have passwords. Happened to a family member of ours. A gentleman died, wasn't expected to at all, from nowhere, and loads of information they needed, because everything's on email as well now, isn't it?
Digital, yeah.
They needed his password, and nobody knew it. And it was only by chance that, because they were trying to talk away from the grandchild, that by chance he just happened to hear they couldn't get onto the tablet, and he was like, I know Grandad's number because I used to play games on there, and but had he not, would never have been able to find the information they needed. So everything is in that book. I think that book's brilliant.
Pensions, bank accounts, passwords,
but it
digital
goes,
accounts.
So get in contact.
Yeah. First 250 will get that. Now, we are going to go into more detail about lasting power of attorney. And I think a lot of you will have heard of that term. And again, it's been in the news. It's been on TV shows quite a lot recently.
I think awfully, sometimes you hear about it because you're hearing the bad story when it all went horribly wrong and they didn't have a lasting power of attorney. So please stay with us. This is what I went to Simpler Law for way before they worked with us here on Shop on TV for my mum. And there's 2 different lasting powers of attorney which we went through, but honestly, the biggest weight off our shoulders, just that peace of mind that we did it. It was actually quite pleasant to do, to sit down, just chat through things. And then now we've just forgotten about it. We know it's there if we ever need it. But it was so simple to do. So, terminology-wise, if people are at home, Georgia, and they've heard of the term lasting power of attorney, but they're not quite sure what it means, can you explain to everyone?
Yeah, of course. So a lasting power of attorney, the whole point is that it's a legal document where it allows somebody who you choose and who you trust to step into your shoes and make decisions in the event that you do lose capacity.
And when we say lose capacity, what can that mean?
That could be, so the most common one is older age, dementia,
Okay.
you know, that's the most common one, but a lot of misconceptions around that. It can be anything and it can be at any age. It could be a serious accident. It could be a stroke, serious illness. It could be a temporary loss of capacity or permanent.
And this can happen at any. That's where we were wrong. We didn't do mums until much later in life, thinking it's when you get older.
Yeah.
But then my friend was knocked over in her 40s by a car.
You still got it done in time, though.
Yeah.
So
because
important.
once it's too late, unfortunately, it's too late.
Yeah.
It is too late.
And there are 2 different types as well to talk about, aren't there?
There are. You've got your property and financial affairs document, and then you have your health and welfare one.
Now, this is the property and lasting affairs that you were talking about. These are just some of the things that you can do with lasting power of attorney, aren't they?
Yes, they are. So with this document, it's such an essential document to have, and again, it's things you don't think about and what you hope won't happen, but there's always a possibility because you don't know what's around the corner. But this document allows somebody to deal with, in the event you lose capacity, it allows somebody to deal with things as big as your property, where you live, those huge decisions, right down to day-to-day decisions such as a weekly food shop or paying the gardener and things like that.
So all your finances.
Because even though, if you were married, you'd think, well, obviously, I'll be able to sort it all out. We're married, or if it's, like me looking after mum, if mum was everybody knows I've got mum's best intentions at heart. Surely I can go into the bank and sort things out, but I can't do that now when you think about it while she's here.
No, not at all. Actually, funnily enough, my mum fell ill a few years ago and she had a temporary loss of capacity because she was so poorly and we couldn't deal with anything on her behalf.
No.
But I'm always the one who goes with her to appointments and I talk to the doctor,
so you just
I
think,
explain it, but you're still not legally allowed to. Your relationship is irrelevant, and that's why these documents are so important.
And they're the kind of document that you hope you put in place, but you hope you never have to use them.
Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? So we've looked at financial. There's also what you found to be more important, secondary.
We didn't realise there were 2 until we sat down and chatted. And the lady said, she said, well, there is as well the health and welfare. And I was like, well, what's that? And when she explained that to me, I was like, that is just, or even for me, I think more important than the financial. So we did both.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this document as well, going back to using my mum as an example, that would have been perfect in that scenario, having to deal with the hospital and, the doctors, surgeons, all of that. And whilst, yes, that's quite a big example, again, it goes right down to making a doctor's appointment, getting medicine on your behalf, making those appointments.
Real personal things, isn't it, as well, like determining where you live.
Yes.
We talked about Hayley's friend, she's a vegetarian.
Yeah.
So that's really, it was always really important.
Had that not been in place, she was in the care home for sort of 10 years. That was, they knew that she was a vegetarian. Then they knew how she liked to dress. My Auntie Cora loved her nails polished. There's certain things that to you personally are so important. And if you went into a home and visited your loved one and perhaps the nails were tatty or they weren't eating the food they liked, be quite upsetting, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And again, another bonus of these documents is you know that somebody you love and trust will look after you the way you would normally look after yourself, which is what we would all want in that scenario. But again, it's not widely advertised, so that's why we're here tonight, to kind of get the word out and hopefully help somebody this evening.
So what happens, Ian, if you are in that situation and you haven't got the lasting power of attorney and sadly something happens? How would you then step into those shoes to look after that loved one and you know, deal with the finances, deal with their health and welfare?
I think that's the first interesting question, is who would step forward? Because when you make a lasting power of attorney yourself, you're going to choose the person or the people that you trust the most to make those decisions for you. If you lose capacity without having a lasting power of attorney, the only way to basically control someone's affairs is to go through something called the Court of Protection and apply for what's called a deputyship order. Now, if you're the person that's incapacitated, you obviously have no control over who that person might be. So it might not be someone that you would have chosen for yourself.
Might be a relative you've fallen out with.
Could be. The Court of Protection are there to protect that vulnerable person, but of course they're only going to be able to work off the information that they get. But let's say it is the right person, let's say it is the person you would have chosen for yourself, that person now has to deal with the courts and go through a very expensive and very protracted, it's an incredibly long process to apply for this deputyship order.
So at a time when you want to be looking after your loved one that's poorly, you've then got to try and sort all this out with your own money, because obviously you can't use their money. Yeah,
initially, because you're obviously making the application, and this is doing it yourself without employing any professional help. So you can see the application fee alone is £421. There's an assessment fee that they carry out. There might be a hearing fee as well, and then there's a supervision fee which is annual. So even if you are granted the deputyship order, and it can take up to a year, that's arguably worse than the costs. It's taking up to a year for these cases to be heard and finalised. And let's say you are granted a deputyship order, sometimes there are restrictions put in place by the court again, so you might want to pay a bill that's more than £500. They say, well, you now need a court permission because you've gone above a threshold.
Didn't that happen to a couple? They were married, because you might think, well, we're married, we've got a joint bank account, so it'll all be all right.
Nope.
But that's not all right either. They were married, and it was it school fees for the girl? He had been in an accident.
Yeah, it's a story we see a lot because it's out there and it's available, but it tells the story perfectly, really. It's a married couple. They'd got the wills in place. Sadly, her husband was in an accident on a country lane and it left him in a coma, and he was in this coma for, I think, 2 or 3 years. And he kind of dealt with all the finances. So his wife was then left to fend for, well, what do I do? So she ended up going through the Court of Protection, did get granted the deputyship order, but she goes on to say that she went to pay her daughter's university fees, which were more than the £500, and effectively had to ask for permission to pay her own daughter's university fees. So it was just really difficult. And the line that she used was something like, she said she cried when her husband died, and she cried when she was released from the Court of Protection, because she was, for every decision she was having to use this. Whereas if it had had a lasting power of attorney and said, I want my wife to step into my shoes, that would have been enough. She'd have just had the power to get on and do it.
And then that's the financial side, and then on the well-being and health side of things, I know there was a story about a nurse, and she wanted to take her mum home for Christmas.
And mum was in a care home,
and that went horribly wrong, didn't it?
You can do a search of the internet and find plenty of these stories, because they're kind of laughable, again, because you're like, that's not right. We're sensible people who think logically and think, well, it was her daughter. She's a nurse. She knows how to look after someone. It was just bringing her home for Christmas Day. But of course, there's legalities, there's authorities to deal with, and she didn't have the permission to do that. So unfortunately, the care home basically reported her as kidnapped. She was missing.
Oh, gosh.
So the police caught up with them in a supermarket car park.
I remember seeing it.
Yeah, and there's
just escalates.
And there was another one just recently as well. That was a lady. Her husband went into hospital. He'd got a very complicated brain
injury.
And whilst he was in hospital, he became very, very poorly. But he could have gone home. But they said he couldn't go home to his wife because she didn't have lasting power of attorney, and he couldn't say if he wanted to go home.
Which again just seems ludicrous, but
doesn't it?
But if you take emotion out of it and take a step back, that's how the world operates. It's like, it seems silly. You made the point earlier about, well, if you're a married couple, or even if you are just a long-term couple and you operate everything together, surely you'd just be able to manage each other's and make decisions for it, because that's what everyone thinks. But the world doesn't work like that. If you've not got the correct authority, you can't act. And so it can be a really, really difficult time at what's already a really, really difficult time. So I don't want to confuse a lasting power of attorney with an insurance policy, because it's definitely not an insurance policy. But it can be thought of in a similar sort of way, that as human beings, we protect things that we can see. We'll protect our tablets, we'll protect our phones,
we'll insure so many things.
We'll insure our boiler, we'll certainly insure our pets, and I'm not suggesting you shouldn't, but we'll pay all this money out for things that we can see and protect, and quite often we forget about ourselves and the person next to us. And so a lasting power of attorney, I think Sean said it earlier and it's perfect. What he said is, it's a document you want to have, but then actually hope that your family never need to use it. But if life does throw you that curveball, your family will be forever grateful that you did have that document, and actually so will you, because you'll know that it's the people that you trust that are now looking after you, and that they're not having to go through all this rigmarole of, well, Dad wouldn't want to be in a care home 50 miles away, or Dad wouldn't want to be treated like that. So sometimes it's conversations that people don't want to have, but you just go to an uncomfortable place for 5 minutes and you can save a lot of problems at what can be a really difficult time. So again, if you sat there with your phone in your hand, the hardest thing about getting this actually in place is sending the word will to 66777 or picking up the phone now. If you phone 0333 600 2600, you'll speak to one of our consultants now, and it'll be one of the best phone calls you've ever made. It might not feel like it, because let's be honest, there's sexier things to spend your money on than wills and lasting power of attorney, but there's fewer documents that are as important.
And I think people realise how simple the process is and how easy it is as well.
Yeah, and I love the fact that I think if you were sat at home, you'd be thinking, oh, what do I need? Do I need my birth certificate? Do I need this, that? Don't need anything right now, do we?
No, not at all. We just bring yourself and we'll take the rest.
Brilliant.
It's a really easy sit-down conversation.
Absolutely.
You've got all the questions, and without us even knowing, we have all the answers.
There,
quite often, some people will phone, they'll be honest, we send you a little welcome pack and it says, just have a think about this and have a little read through that. And sometimes people will phone, will phone at the consultation and say, I'm really sorry, I've not had time to read it. In all honesty, it doesn't really matter. That was really for your benefit, just tell it, but we're going to hold your hand through the whole process anyway.
Great.
So not only do you not need to know anything this evening, you don't need to know anything at the consultation, because you do already know all the answers.
Right.
You're just not aware of what questions we're going to ask, but you know your date of birth, you know where you live, and you know who you would want to step into your shoes.
Who you trust.
And if you need a bit of time to think about a question that we've asked you, then you just take that time, because it's your document, it's not ours.
You were so good at that. I knew when we came away from the phone call that your head buzzes then. You think, oh, why didn't I ask that? And I knew I could just email and say, forgot to ask this, and you got straight back in contact with us straight away. And so, honestly, Simple Law make it so easy. But you can ask those questions, and they go at your pace. We were never once were we rushed, and just followed up to and check we'd done things right, which is another really important thing, signing things right. Simple Law do all the hard work for you. If you're watching and you know you need to get a will put together, you know you really should do lasting power of attorney, please get in contact. Right now, you've got till close of business on Friday for the deals that we're talking about, but get in contact now, because so often Friday will come and go, won't it? And then you'll have missed out on that extra 20% off that you've got right now.
We'll remind you of all the offers, whether it's wills or lasting power of attorney. We are going to talk more about wills if you've just tuned in, and explain why it's so important that everyone has a will. But the offers are currently with an extra 20% discount, as Hayley said, until close of business on Friday. So the will itself, the family estate will, £249 is the price it should be. The offer price was down to £124, but you can see on the screen now down to less than £100 to write a legally binding will that'll have all of your wishes in there, and it's your document. And that's the really important thing to point out. So everything that you want in place can be put into that will, and so much more than you think you can put in a will.
Yeah, remember the government will fall in place if you haven't got a legally binding will. We're going to get more detail about that. But please, if you were listening about lasting power of attorney, do get in contact again right now to get that incredible price. Should be £300 and practically £50. Our regular price there, £239, but you have got that extra 20% off. It's not always that we get a 20% off deal. It's one of the favourites. It is available right now, £189, and of course you can split that cost over 4 payments, so £47 and 25 pence. And these costs, I bet you spend that so easily on coffee, on a takeaway, and what you're putting this money towards right now is something that is so important. And if you've been watching the show and you've already been in contact and you got in contact about the will, and now you're thinking, now I've listened about lasting power of attorney, we should really do both. As long as you secure the prices tonight, you can change your mind. So, well, actually, can I do will and lasting power of attorney? That's a massive saving.
Yeah, that's the biggest saving of all. It should be almost £600. The offer price was £315, but with the extra 20% off, it comes down to £249. With those 4 interest-free payments, £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments there. Remember, the first 250 clients will also receive that free book. It's worth £25. What My Family Should Know. It's a book where you can record all your details in one place. Things like your pensions, your bank accounts, all the obvious things that people are going to be looking for, but also things like passwords to your mobile phone, to your computer, to your tablet computer. Everything can be in that one place so that you're not hunting around for everything. So first 250 people to get in touch will get that book.
And that always goes.
Yep.
So get in contact right now, and it's so easy to do that. You don't even need to speak to anybody. Perhaps you're like us, we're rubbish. Neither of us want to answer the phone, neither of us want to answer the door. We talk all day for our living, like, I don't want to speak to anybody. So there's loads of ways to get in contact. You can do simplelaw.co.uk/shop on TV, so you can get in contact via their website, or you can jump onto the phones if you perhaps got a couple of questions. The team are there right now. I know we will have had a busy night tonight, but they will pick up as soon as they can. 0333 600 2600 is the phone number. So please jump onto the phones. You don't need to have loads of information. All you need to know is, I want to do the will, I want to do the lasting power of attorney. They'll take your details and then get back in contact to sort out a day that's good for you to actually sit down and speak to them properly. But actually the simplest way is text. And that's texting the word will to 66777. I bet you've got your phone right there in the palm of your hand. It's sat right by you on the arm of your chair. That's it done. You've secured that price. And do it right now, because though you've got time until the close of business on Friday, sadly the weeks just disappear, don't they? And all of a sudden it'll be Saturday, Sunday, and you think, oh, I've missed the extra 20% off again. Do it right now while you've got such massive savings. And if you're used to going via our website, you can get in contact that way as well.
It's shopontv.co.uk. Just scroll down on our website, and when you scroll down, about halfway down that homepage, you'll come to our on-screen partners. Over to the right there is Simpler Law. Click on that logo, and it takes you straight through to the exclusive offers. Then when you scroll down on that page, you're just going to fill in that form. Dead simple, dead straightforward, and you've secured those offers with that extra discount.
I know the answers to all those
Even
questions.
you
Honestly,
know
it's
the
a
answers.
really simple form. Simpler Law just make everything so easy. All you need to know tonight is you want to get that will in place. You want to get that lasting power of attorney in place. You're securing those prices. Sometimes it's that first step that we just don't manage. We want to do those things, but you don't manage that first step, and you never get things done. Sadly, with our stair carpet, we can still get up the stairs, but sadly in life, one day it will be just too late. Honestly, get it done right now, because it will be the biggest peace of mind, completely. And so we're going to get back to wills, and you've got the price on the screen. Such an incredible price to make sure you've got a legally binding will. Because you might be at home not realising, because we didn't, that if you haven't written a legally binding will, you have got a will. And that's a will the government have put together, and it isn't right for anybody.
And there are so many misconceptions. Hayley and I were exactly the same. We thought because we'd been together for such a long time, there was common law, husband and wife.
Yeah.
That's not a thing. What you're seeing right now is the rules of intestacy, what we often call the government will, and it's just a series of yes/no questions. We'll get Ian to explain it as we go through the show.
Well, it starts with, are you married? And our answer would be no. So sadly, even though all our family would know what's ours is ours, and if something happened to Sean, you know, all the family would know Sean would want it to come to me. If something happened to me, all the family would know they'd want it to go to Sean. But the government doesn't know that, doesn't care about that, and sadly that is not what would happen. Even though, and I've been saying we've been together 34 years, it's 35 now, we're in another year.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah. 35 years we've been together.
Is there a medal for that? Or?
There must be, mustn't
Medal
there?
for her, not me, obviously.
Honestly, and 35 years, and we wouldn't been entitled to each other's because the government would say no. But actually, it's more complicated than that. If you're married, it's not as simple as that. If you're married with children from different relationships, honestly, it's really complicated. If you're single, there's so many reasons everybody needs to have a will.
I think it's really important to point out, don't wait to write a will. Don't wait till you get married. Don't wait until you have children. And I think it's really important to say that everyone really needs a will in place, don't they?
100%. For it, your last act on planet Earth and your last gift to your family should be your will, not a set of rules that decides what distributes everything that you've worked hard for. And, you know, wealth is, to a degree, it's relative, isn't it? You know, because some people are like, oh, I haven't got that much. Then we sit down with them and like, well, you've got a house and a car and a little bit.
Yeah, you don't realise,
and
do you?
because they're not selling the house, or maybe they bought the house 20, 30 years ago, so they never saw it as kind of an investment, but it's still wealth that's going to pass down to your children. And it's important that it's passed down in the most tax-efficient way that it can be, and that it's in accordance with your wishes. And the only way to do that is to draft a will. And as you saw with those questions on the screen, if you die without a will, then you do die intestate. The rules of intestacy do kick in, and effectively it's the government will that then makes that decision for you.
And it's, like you say, just a series of yes/no questions.
Sometimes I bet you've heard of a story, someone in the village or someone down the road, and somebody died, and you found out that everything they owned ended up going to some long-distant relation in Australia that they'd never met. But that's going down. It'll find the bloodline somewhere, and again, it's all about the bloodline. The fact of the matter is, the rules of intestacy simply exist because if there wasn't a default position, there'd be anarchy. Yeah, because you think it's so wrong. How can there be one will? But there has to be something.
There has to be a fallback, because otherwise everyone would just be going. There'd just be fights all the time, wouldn't there? Potentially.
Well, yeah, everyone would have an opinion, wouldn't they? That you think that, you think that. Maybe none of it's right because it's not your wishes. But with your will, you can write exactly what you want to happen. Can't you?
Exactly.
Yes, you can. And again, we've seen it sadly so many times in practice where there hasn't been a will and there is family disputes, or well, mum or dad wouldn't want so and so to receive anything because this happened or this happened.
Yeah, it's not just about who you want it to go to. Sometimes it's about who you don't want things to go to. And you see that a lot, so no one should be embarrassed about that situation.
Absolutely not. At the end of the day, it's everything belongs to you, and you are completely entitled to leave it to who you want to. And that's the point of our service: is who you choose and what you choose.
It's
and that's
your
the most important
document.
thing.
You guys always say that it's your document. It's what you want. And when we talk about a will and what you can do, there's so many different things, and we can see that on this list here. First of all, choose your own executors. What does that mean?
So go on, you take it, Georgia.
So executors, they are somebody you choose to administer your estate, so to give your assets to your loved ones. And it's got to be somebody you trust, either that or professionals who know what they're doing and can take that pressure off you. But they're the people, that's the first thing you do when you write a will, you choose those people, and then it goes on from there. So it'll be funeral wishes, you know, how do you want your funeral to go? Where do you want your pets to go? Who do you want them to go to? Is there anything you want to leave for them, like some money to look after them? Guardians for your children, you know, and the list just goes on.
And you often talk about that, Ian, guardians for your children. It's so important, isn't it?
It's a really horrible thing to think about, isn't it? That two parents might be in an accident and the children are left behind. Heartbreaking. And some of us might think, you know, we're godparents to a lot of children, and you might think, oh, you know, well, they'll go to the godparents, but that's not the case at all.
No,
it's not a legal position.
No, it's just it's a religious position. So it may be that the guardians are the same as the godparents, but being a godparent doesn't entitle you to become a child's guardian. You're right. It's an awful thing to think about, but our job is to take you to a dark place just for 30 seconds and say, right, if life threw you a curveball, God forbid, you both weren't here, you went around to see your children grow up, who would you want them to be looked after by? Who would you want them to go to? And most parents have an immediate, oh, my sister, my brother, my parents, whatever it may be. And again, it's your decision. So a will isn't just about, you know, leaving your wedding ring or the money in the bank. You can pass on your parental responsibilities. So guardianship can be really important for parents of minors. And again, it stops arguments and removes any ambiguity, because what people can't understand, and understandably so, is grief and how bereavement affects you. You know, emotions so high. You imagine losing someone that you shouldn't lose, especially if we're talking about young parents. And then it might be that both sets of grandparents come forward and both think that they've got an equal right to look after the children. And actually, it could have been the parents that didn't want either.
Or even a best friend. You just want the people that are similar to yourself, wouldn't you? Or to have your beliefs.
It's commonplace for guardians to be similar age, similar values, because that's where you want your children to be brought up in that environment. But regardless of whatever your choice is, that's the point, it's your choice.
Yeah.
When that list was up on the screen there about your will, it's all about you choose your executors, you choose your guardians, you choose trustees, you choose what age your children inherit. You choose if you want to leave any specific gifts, cash gifts or charitable donations, that thing. It's all personal, it's all you. Right down to, as Georgia said, even saying whether you want a burial or a cremation. There's all kinds of weird and wonderful things they can do now. They can turn into a diamond, can't they, or something? But whatever your preference is, you can document in your will. If you don't leave a will, you can't document it.
Didn't you have a couple of brothers that they both knew the song that their mum wanted at the funeral, and they'd got very different songs.
They were quite animated about it, and again, it was, you know, something they didn't think had been resolved, and they got in touch with us, and we said, well, we hold your mum's will in storage, so we'll get it out of storage. And yes, she documented the funeral wishes, and there was 3 songs, the one to come into, the one during the service, and the one to leave the service, and not one of those songs were the ones that the sons thought it was going to be. Which was kind of a nice thing, because then they kind of went, oh, okay. Yeah. But again, that just... So that argument just melted away.
You can just do so much with a will, can't you, to make things so much easier for the people you leave behind.
Yeah, and it really is. It genuinely is quite a cathartic process when you go through the consultation. You know, our consultants, in a not patronising way, will hold your hand through the whole process, because this is about what you want to happen. You've worked hard for everything that you've got. It's very rare today that we're given something. You know, if you've got something, you will have grafted for it. So it's really important that if you know where you want what you've worked hard for to go to where you want it to go, then you've got to do that in the correct manner, and that's by making a will. And we'll hold your hand and we'll show you how to do that. And at the end of it, you'll have your will, which at the very least takes out the rules of intestacy, so you know that what you want to happen is going to happen.
And that government will is so old that, you know, it's 100 years old. Even 100 years ago, it wouldn't have been right, because how can one will work for absolutely
it's a means
everybody?
To an end. Yeah.
But right now in our world today, very different to 100 years ago. So many people remarried with children from different families, that are a blended family. They all see, they're not stepbrothers and sisters, they're brothers and sisters. They've lived that way forever.
Yeah.
If you haven't written a will, that can actually rip families apart, because it's not going to be fair on all of the children, is it?
It's 50-50 which children are going to benefit from the estate and which children aren't, truthfully. So the first parent that passes away, if everything's left to the surviving spouse, it's their children that lose out when the surviving spouse then dies. So forgive the finger puppets, but if you've got Mr. and Mrs., and Mr's got a child or children from a previous relationship, and Mrs. has got a child or children from a previous relationship, if Mr. passed away first, and everything under the rules of intestacy passed to his wife, then she inherits, and the kids don't think anything about that because that's what they expected to happen. But then when Mrs. dies, everything goes to her children only and follows her bloodline. So Mrs. children are basically disinherited.
Gosh.
And that could rip a family, because already you're devastated, and then...
I'd like to say we don't see it, but we're one of the largest providers of these services in the UK. We've got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of clients. So I won't say we've seen it all, but we've seen most. And again, the frustrating thing, and it sounds a little bit selfish to say it's frustrating, but we know that a 15-minute phone call could have saved all this pain.
Yeah.
And that's again why we do these shows. So the only way to sort of make sure that what you want to happen is going to happen is to send that text or pick up that phone tonight. Because unfortunately as well, if you're listening to me waffle this morning, you can't now say that you didn't know there was a government will. Because you know, a lot of people pass away thinking everything's going to be okay and don't know any different, and the families are as shocked. But that's why we do these shows, to say please don't be that family, because no one regrets putting a will in place, but your family can certainly regret that you didn't, because it can go very wrong very quickly. And sometimes the parents, coming back to that scenario where there's children that have been disinherited, will say things like, well, I'm sure the children would look after each other.
Oh no! What pressure! That's way too much
when money's involved.
It's a huge amount of pressure. There's no legal obligation on the children that have inherited, and also again, without taking into account the fact of bereavement, the grief, what that does to people, the risk of casting aspersions, what money can do to people. But sometimes it's not the children, it's their partners, their husbands or their wives.
Yes.
You know, going, well, we could use that money.
We don't have to.
You can almost see them going, well, they're not really your brother. I'm being horrible, but we've seen it.
Of course.
We've seen it. You know, and you're just thinking, well, these problems can be fixed with a very, very short phone call. So please.
And you don't need to put that pressure on them, because you can do it, or you can write it all down and it's all sorted, isn't it?
Yeah, and I suppose, especially at the end of our service, is something we pride ourselves on. The whole point is that we do help you throughout the entire thing, and at the end you get to sit there and go, don't need to worry, I've dealt with it, it's sorted.
Yeah, it's all in place.
All the sorry, Sean, all the consultations always end in a very similar way.
Yeah.
Is, oh, I'm glad I did that.
That was easy.
It's always like, oh, that was much better than I thought it was, or it was easier than I thought it was, or it wasn't as complicated as I thought it was.
I think it's going to be complicated. It's going to be big, long words. I'm not going to understand. I won't have the answers, or I haven't got all the information. But you have got all the information. You need to ask the questions, and you know the answers.
We truthfully don't know how valuable that phone call is going to be until the point of need, because only then will you know what position your family were in and exactly what your will's going to do for you. What we know 100% is if you make a will, you get rid of the rules of intestacy, you get rid of the default position, which doesn't care about anybody, you know, not the four of us at this table, not anybody watching this. It doesn't care about us because it can't. You know, the only way to, you know, every single will we've made, and we've written hundreds of thousands, is unique. Yeah. Because it's for that individual.
Never written two the same.
No. Because it's for that individual every single time. Whereas the rules of intestacy is one size fits all, because that's the default position, which is why it just doesn't work for families.
I remember another story, and we haven't spoken about this for a while, but it was a couple. They'd been together years, but the lady had been married before, but she'd never divorced. Yeah. So she'd ended up being with her partner for longer than she was married, and luckily she found out before anything happened. But had she died, her partner wouldn't have got anything,
because she was still married.
Would have gone to her husband that she'd been sort of separated from for years.
And that's it. They didn't see themselves as a married couple. They just never bothered going for the formal divorce. She saw herself fully in this relationship. It transpires she still owned part of a property with her current husband. And when we said, well, if you'd have passed away yesterday, the first question that's asked is, are you married in a civil partnership? What would your answer? What's the answer? And she's like, well, we're separated. No. Are you still married? Yeah. Okay, well, your husband gets everything. They're like, that's not what I want. But again, you know, it's not readily available, this information. No. But she didn't see herself as married, but the law does. Yeah. And it's like when we see these, you know, blended families, which is not unusual today. In fact, it's commonplace. It's
normal.
But so it's perfectly understandable, and families see themselves as a family where, you know, the children don't refer to each other as stepbrother or stepsister. You know, it's their sister and their brother, and
they might have lived together since really young. They don't think that at all. They are just one big family.
Yeah. And so it's no surprise then when people see themselves as a family, they think they're going to be dealt with as a family by the law. But unfortunately, if you don't make a will and you die intestate, the law says you have different bloodlines. And it's only the surviving bloodline that your wealth is going to pass down. So please, if you sat watching this tonight, one of the best things you can ever do, and also the hardest thing of this process, is to send a text or pick up the phone.
Yeah,
the first
it's
step
writing a legally binding will. Because there's another, my head's full tonight, another story about a
You're testing my memory on this story.
I am testing you. But I'm just trying to think of all the scenarios of all of you watching, because sometimes you'll think, oh, well, I'm not married, or I haven't got kids. You know, we're just a couple. Obviously, everybody knows it'll go to it, but it's not how it works. But it was a gentleman, an older gentleman, and he'd lived next door or down the road from his best friend forever, and his best friend had looked after him for years. And he promised him, he says, you know, when I go, the house is yours. Everybody in that,
everyone in the village knew
that was the situation, but it was never written down legally, was it? So
no, it was you know, it was beyond doubt that, you know, they were almost a couple, and it was always known, you know, it was always talked about in the pub, and sometimes it's like, oh, you're going to live forever, you know, and of course, sadly, the inevitable happened, and he passed away. And, you know, a few weeks and months pass on, and then a few of the village start asking, so, you know, what's happening with the house? And it transpired he didn't make a will.
Gosh.
So it ended up, the house ended up, I think, going to a second cousin who lived in Canada. They'd got a distant relation.
They'd never met?
No.
I bet.
Now, don't get me wrong, the guy it was never friends with him for the house, so genuinely...
No, but
wasn't upset about
wanted, wasn't it, that?
But everyone knew that what happened to his house wasn't what he wanted to happen. Yeah. And it's like, no one obviously ever sat down and just said, well, you just need to, it'll take 10 minutes to draft a will. So you want that person to be the executor, you want that person to inherit your estate, get it signed, dated and witnessed and done. But
and there's
it never
nothing
happened.
too complicated as well, because our friends, because we're terrible now, we'll say, we're like, have you got a will? And they're like, no.
What do you mean now?
And we are. We're like, you've got to get a will written, and we've got friends that, and they were like, ours is just too complicated.
Yeah, that was
don't know how we'd do it or where to start. And we were like, you've got to get in touch with Simple Law, and you did do their will, and it wasn't nothing's too complicated. I shouldn't think there's anything really you've come across that you've not come across before?
No, we've written well over 300,000 documents. We manage over £1 billion in trust assets for our clients. We've come across more scenarios, fortunately. Where we actually panic is where a client goes, oh, you'll like me because it's nice and simple. That's where we take sharp intake of breath going, okay.
Here we go.
And that's where you might have to think about it, because it's understandable that people might think their situation's complicated, but please don't let that put you off. It's our job to uncomplicate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we can't, then we're not the company for you. You can say you didn't uncomplicate it. Ian on the telly with the big nose said that you would uncomplicate it for me, and if we don't, then we're not the company for you. That's how confident we are that we can. Because again, our consultants are highly trained. This is what they do every single day, and it's the only thing they do.
Yeah.
We don't deviate into any other area of the law. Now, don't get me wrong, we offer a full range of private client legal services within our group. We don't have to outsource any of our work, but when it comes to the consultation, our consultants are literally trained to help you write the will that's right for you and nothing else.
Estate planning is where you specialise, like you say, and I think the whole process, Georgia, for me is that you get your consultant, you deal with the same person, any legal terminology, everything's explained, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think something we have perfected over the years, I suppose.
That's a strong word, perfect. I'd take that one back.
From the 5-star reviews, it sounds like you've done it pretty well.
You know, the whole point of our service was to simplify the whole process, take the complexity out, so you weren't sat there, you know, stressing about it or worrying about
everything.
Exactly, like what does that mean? What does that mean? We take all of that, and that's our job. We deal with that, and we explain it in, you know, easy to understand terms, so you don't feel bamboozled by all that legal jargon. And we take all of that and do it for you, and you're just left there with the documents and everything and a peace of mind that it's all sorted and done for you.
And Ian always says it's your document. It's exactly what you want to be written into that will.
Exactly.
And if you're not satisfied, you've got that money back guarantee.
All those wills we've written, none of them are ours.
Yeah.
They're all our clients, because, you know, you've got all the answers. It's your estate. It's what you've worked hard for. It's your family. It's your loved ones. We just help you make sure that your last act on planet Earth is yours, and more importantly, it's what you would want to happen and not the default position. Because there's nothing more it's just horrible.
It must be hard because you must get those phone calls and you're hearing, you know, and they knew exactly what their mum wanted, their dad wanted, but they ring you and say, was there a will in place? And you're like, sorry, no.
Every now and then we can do this thing called deed of variation, which I won't bore you with, but costs a small fortune, and you might be able to fix part of it after the event, but it's just horrible.
Heartbreaking.
So the only way to make sure that what you want to happen happens is to make your own will. And honestly, I cannot stress just how selfless that is.
And what if you bought a template and
You
tried
can
to
do
do
that,
your
yeah.
own? And you still have to pay for those.
Yeah.
And there's no help, is there, to write what I think can be very confusing.
I think they're quite. I think dangerous might sound melodramatic, but I think they're quite dangerous because they don't give you any advice. You've got to follow the layout of the template and kind of hope that you're doing it right, because there's nothing to guarantee that you're doing it right. And there are, like Georgia just said, we simplify everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you're dealing with a couple, there's things like, what do you want to happen when the first one of you dies, and then what do you want to happen when the second one of you dies? Because people often write mirror wills, but sometimes they shouldn't actually mirror each other because things can get duplicated.
That happened, didn't it, with like grandparents?
Yeah.
And it was like the first and second death, which I'd never heard of.
Why would you? Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even think. And so, didn't it end up the sort of granddad died, and there was money to go to grandchildren?
Oh, memory's pretty
Yeah.
impressive
I'm
tonight.
fine. I'm full.
Testing my brain.
A lot going on in there.
We did get a phone call, yeah, because we'd written a will and lasting powers of attorney for a couple. They phoned us and said, my dad's just passed away. He had a will, but we found out that he did it from a template. We won't say where it was from, but he did it from a template. And when he did the will, it's very, very basic. So it stated who the executors were, and it asked if there were any gifts, and he left a cash gift. I think it was either £10,000 or £20,000 to each grandchild. I think it was £20,000 cash gift to each grandchild, and then everything else was to go to each other. The problem is he owned the house, not his wife, and there wasn't really much cash in the estate. All the wealth in the estate was in bricks and mortar, actually, in the property. So when he passed away, the will said that there were cash gifts to go straight to the grandchildren. So where's that cash going to come from? Because there isn't enough cash in the estate. It's got to come from the sale of the property. And when he drafted the will, he said £20,000 to each of my grandchildren, and he had 3 apparently when he did the will, and there was 8 when he passed away. So now there's £160,000 due to the grandkids.
And his wife was still alive and
living in the
living
house.
in.
Yeah, so if, as any other professional would have done, we'd have talked about, well, perhaps that cash gift's written in both wills, but obviously it's only going to pay out from one, which is when the survivor's
Second,
passed away,
yeah.
so that everything can go to his wife. She lives there, no hassle whatsoever. Then when she passes away, the house can be sold, the cash gifts can go to the grandchildren, then the rest can go to the kids. And it's just, that seems fairly straightforward when you think about it, but...
And he thought he'd written it right, which
Yeah.
is even worse, actually, because he had written it, he knew what
Well,
they
the
wanted.
worrying thing is his wife, who'd survived him, who wasn't very well also, her will was identical, so that gift was going to be duplicated.
Paid
Oh,
out
gosh.
Yeah. So, and you know that wasn't their intention.
No.
And this is what we talk about sometimes when we see templates or we see notes dotted around that aren't legally binding, that it can be heartbreaking because you can see what the intention was, but actually the execution isn't what the client intended. So I personally, I don't understand the template. I really don't get it, because you're quite right, Hayley. You have to pay for it, and this can be quite a complicated thing where you might need a little bit of advice, because, you know, if I get a toothache, I don't think, well, I'll just watch a video and see how I pull a tooth, and you know, if my car breaks down, I'm going to take it to a garage.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to estate planning, I'll
it myself.
I've got this blank. I'll have a go myself. It's too important a thing, and you don't get a do-over, because at the point where it's read is obviously at the point of need.
Yeah, well, we've seen it in practice going off that point, where people have done a template will with someone from the high street, and they've actually failed because they've not been done properly, or they haven't taken
So
into
they've
account.
had that intention.
Yeah.
And it's gone via the government will in the end.
Because, and it
that
can
could
go
be
wrong
well.
for so many reasons, because we don't
many
really
reasons.
know what we're doing, do
No,
we?
that's it.
No, exactly. And again, it underpins the, our service. Why we do it, we take all of that hassle away. So not only are you sat there going, oh, I've done it, but you also, there's no room for error.
The security, yeah.
Exactly.
Look, we're not going to be hypocrites. We're on a channel called Shop on TV. We'd love for you to contact us so we can help write your will. But I've always considered myself really lucky finding this profession, because for the best part of 30 years, we've been able to run a business where we genuinely know that we're helping people and families. This isn't something that you want. This is something that you need, but perhaps you don't understand why you need it yet, and that's why we do these shows. We're not trying to give you like a luxury product. We're not trying. I'm on here for crying out loud, so it's. I know there are sexier things to spend your money on, but this is possibly one of the most important things that isn't that expensive that you can spend your money on, and it will do something amazing, not just for you but for your family. So please, if you sat thinking about it, please don't think about it, because tomorrow morning, when you don't do it tonight, life will get in the way, and you'll just make yourself a coffee and get on with life again. You've got a great opportunity tonight to send that text or pick up the phone, do something amazing for yourself, but certainly something amazing for your loved ones.
I think it's also about the team that you're working with, because those consultants get mentioned so much in reviews. In fact, we've had an email in about Rhiannon. This is from Tony and Jill. Thanks for emailing in. Our consultant Rhiannon is brilliant, so friendly, so helpful, completely put us at ease, and really did make this process so much easier than we thought it would be. And that's what you want to hear, isn't it? Something like this where the weight's lifted off your shoulders, the relief once you've done it. But it's just about taking that first step.
Yeah, I think you think it's going to be really expensive. You can think it's going to be really complicated. It is neither of those things tonight, and it is so important. The will and lasting power of attorney. But remember, if you haven't written a legally binding will, there's a government will that falls into place, and it's not right for anybody. Not right for us, because we've been together 35 years, but we're not married. Not right if you are married with children from different relationships. Not right if you're just on your own. There's honestly, everybody needs a legally binding will, and this is your opportunity tonight to get an amazing price, and for the job to be done so easily with Simpler Law.
And so well by experts.
Honestly, get in contact. Look at the prices. Price-wise, you can't go wrong, because you have got one of our best deals, an extra 20% off, and you've only got that extra 20% off up until close of business on Friday. What we say is get in contact right now, because Friday will come and go, won't it? And you won't have done it, and you'll think, oh, I've missed out again. It actually takes the price from £249 for your will down to £99. Our regular price normally £124. £99 is your price tonight, which is incredible. Under £100 to get a legally binding will that you know what you want to happen is going to happen. And you can split that cost over 4 payments. £24.75 is the first of those 4 payments. And that, I bet, is probably less than you spend on cups of coffee a week. And you've written a legally binding will. And what you've worked so hard for, it's going to go to the people you want it to go to. And possibly not go to the people that you don't want it to go to. Honestly, sit down with the team and you can discuss. You can do so much with a will. And then lasting power of attorney, which we are going to speak about again.
Yeah, we'll explain the term if you've just joined us and you're wondering what it actually means, but you've heard about it. Lasting power of attorney, the suggested price on that is $349. Our offer price should have been $239, which is great, but with the extra 20% off, remember, only until close of business Friday, so do it right now, take advantage at £189, and with those 4 interest-free payments it comes down to $47.25 on your first of 4 payments there. However, the biggest saving of all is if you go for the 2, and if you've already gone for the will and you change your mind and you want to add in lasting power of attorney, you've secured these offers, whichever offers you change your mind and want to go for. So the will and lasting power of attorney should be almost £600. $315 was the regular offer price, but with the extra 20% discount, it comes down to $249. And again, with those 4 interest-free payments, just $62.25 on your first of 4 payments.
We spoke to someone, I can't remember who it was. We spoke to someone about this just recently, and they were like, oh my goodness, they'd done it. It was like £3,500 or something.
Thousands of pounds.
They're like, what do you charge? And we're like, oh, I don't know if I should tell you, because honestly, you have got such incredible prices, and all of those deals you'll secure if you get in contact right now in any of those ways, because whether you want to speak to someone right now, you don't, it's so easy. You can go via the website, simplylaw.co.uk/shop on TV, and fill in a really simple form. Perhaps you've got a couple of questions. The team are waiting. I know they've been really busy tonight on the phones, but they will answer your call. And all they're going to do is take your information. You don't need to know anything. You don't need to find. It's just your name, your telephone number, your contact details, and that you want to do a will. You want to do a lasting power of attorney. So you can jump on the phones. They're there till 3 a.m. and that's 0333 600 2600. But the easiest and always the busiest way, I think, because we've always got our phone right there, probably in the palm of your hand right now. And the job's done. You just text the word will to 66777.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. And you've taken that first step. You've started the process. And you've probably been wanting to get round to it for such a long time. But that first step is the hardest, isn't it?
We're rubbish, aren't we, at actually getting things done at a time. So when you've actually texted that word will to 66777, peace of mind. You've secured every price that we've told you about tonight. Do it now, because though you've got the deals to close of business on Friday, sadly the week just goes, doesn't it? And all of a sudden Friday will be gone and you think, oh, I've done it, I've missed out again. We've done it on weekends away, weekend between Christmas and New Year. Absolute bargain.
Never happened. Didn't
read the small print, needed to do it before the 1st of October. Rang up on the 2nd, prices have gone up £600. Did we go away between Christmas and New Year? No, because we'd lost the deal. So do it whilst you know you've got that deal. But another reason is this book, because the first 250 people that get in contact will secure this fabulous book.
Yeah, it's called What My Family Should Know. Basically, you record everything in one place. So the obvious things like your pensions, maybe your bank accounts, all your assets in there.
It's all what your family will be looking for if you do pass.
But then the things that you might not think about, things like house and home security alarm codes. But then really important things nowadays, passwords, pets and animals, something very important. But it could be things like passwords to your digital accounts, to your computer, to your laptop, to your tablet. Everything in one place. So many things are digital now. You don't have paper copies.
And it might be something sentimental. It might be photographs. It might be videos that you want, or it could be vital emails that you just can't get to because you've got no idea. I bet you don't know your parents or your past number. It's all in there, so it just makes things so simple.
And now, if you want to get in touch through our website, you can also do that. shopontv.co.uk. Go to the homepage, scroll down to our on-screen partners, and when you get down there to the right-hand side, you'll see Simpler Law. Click on there. It takes you straight through to the exclusive offers. And once again, scroll down, and you just fill in that really simple, straightforward form.
And you've done it. You've secured those prices. You'll know the answer to all those questions. Submit, and that's it done. You've secured every price, whichever option you want to go for. And that's that first step that sometimes we're just so rubbish at. And whether that is just because we haven't got time, because the time suddenly goes, and before we know it, it'll be summer, won't it? And then before you know it, it'll be Christmas again. And you think, where did that year go? And one day it might just be too late. So do it right now. And once you've taken that first step, my mum needed a new patio for about 8 years.
A number of years.
And it wasn't that we couldn't afford to get the patio done. It's just we'd never got round to ringing anybody to actually come and look at the patio, give us a price, and then it was done within a week, and we'd wasted 8 years. Sometimes you just think things are going to be such a big job, or it's just too complicated. It's not. Get that job done. It was absolute peace of mind that we knew Mum had got a safe patio to work on, walk on, and it's going to be the same for you. That peace of mind that you've written that will, and that government will, because don't forget, if you've got a will written, that's great. What you want to happen is if it's a legally binding will, what you want to happen is going to happen. If you haven't written a will, there's a will that's been written for you, and that's the government will, and nobody wants that, because how can one will work for absolutely everybody? But we've spoken about wills, so we're going to move back to lasting power of attorney, because I think a lot of people, we only discovered lasting power of attorney because we heard of a story where someone hadn't had it and really did need it. And sadly, sometimes that's when you find out about lasting powers of attorney, when it's too late.
When it comes to that term, if you're not quite sure what it means, Georgia, can you explain to everyone what a lasting power of attorney actually is?
Yeah, so it's a legal document where you get to choose somebody who you trust implicitly to be able to make decisions on your behalf in the event that you lose capacity.
And when it comes to losing capacity, what are we talking about?
So we're talking the standard most common one, which is old age, say things such as dementia.
Okay.
But we're also talking more serious scenarios. So, for example, serious illness, that can trigger it, and that can be at any age. We're talking a stroke or maybe a serious accident.
So it could be at any point in our life,
Any
couldn't
age,
it?
yeah.
Yes, exactly, at any age. And it's one of those where it's not something you want to think about or you anticipate happening, but you never know what's around the corner, and it's better to have the document and not need it.
Yeah.
I think, like wills, you all think, I'll be all right, we've told all the family, they know what I want to happen is, you know, so it'll happen, but it won't because you've got the government will. However, I think we were the same. I felt, you know, I look after mum now, so obviously if mum was poorly, I'd still look after her, and surely I could sort out all these things.
You
But
would think.
You would think,
You
but
would
that's
think.
not. Or if you're married, so we're married, we've got joint account. Surely I can sort out everything. That's not the case, is it?
No, not at all. Unfortunately, not in the world where we live in at the moment.
Well, when you
but-
think about it logically, you can't really do that when everything's fine, can you? You can't.
No, you still need permission.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
I think
but-
that's a light bulb moment for a lot of people,
Yeah.
especially couples, married or otherwise.
Yeah.
Is it's like, well, do you have your own account or do you have joint accounts? Well, a lot of people don't realise even a joint account actually has to be frozen if one of you loses capacity, because by definition you both can't jointly access it.
Yeah.
So you're not giving each other permission. But me and my wife have had lasting powers of attorney in place for the best part of 20 years. You know, and touch wood, we've never need to use them, and hopefully we never need to use it. But you know, my wife can't go into my bank and access my money now, and I can't go into her bank and access her money now, whilst we've
No.
both got capacity. And if one of us lost capacity, we become even more protected. And yet there's this sort of belief that, oh, my husband's incapacitated now, life's thrown him a curveball, so I'll just go to the bank and say I was incapacitated, and now they will give me access. And so if you just take that step back and think about that for a second, that's the kind of light bulb moment where people go, oh,
gosh.
we own our property jointly. So if Jeannie wanted to sell our house because something happened to me,
Oh,
whether that was
gosh.
to help fund care or move somewhere else,
Couldn't.
the house is then stranded as well. That's tied up because I can't sign for it. Anything jointly held, I can't sign for. Anything that I manage, Jeannie can't deal with. And you know, we run the house together, we run our family together. But truthfully, as our relationship grew, I tended to deal more with the financial side, and Jeannie didn't. She's very good at using the credit card, I'll give her that. But whilst of course Jeannie knows how to deal with everything, the lasting power of attorney is the vehicle that will give her access and authority to
able to
deal
do
with
it.
everything. If that wasn't there, truthfully, if I became incapacitated yesterday, I'm leaving my wife with actually quite a struggle, because I manage all the finances and move the money around and stuff like that and pay the bills. So I think that's actually called plausible deniability on Jeannie's part, actually. I didn't realise that we couldn't afford that purchase. I've just realised as I said it out loud, that's been a ruse all along.
Clever woman.
But obviously on a serious note, you know, there'll be lots of couples who understand what I've just said.
Yeah.
You know, there's quite often one...
It's just a natural thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of you takes control of that and the other one takes control
Sometimes,
of that.
or some, you know, and it's not unusual for us to meet couples that run the finances almost independently of each other, but perhaps have a joint account where they just put money in that
That's it.
pays
For
the
the
bills.
Right, yeah.
But that still means
really
that
common
that
knowledge.
still means that one of you's got to do something.
Yeah.
Of course.
And, you know, it's an awful thing to think about, but sometimes these problems only manifest themselves when it is too late. So, you know, someone does lose capacity, and then the other person that's involved in that relationship thinks, oh, I can just step in and just deal with this now, and that, oh,
I can't.
No, I can't.
and this horrible situation then just mushrooms into an even worse situation, because now you can't deal with what you want to deal with, and you also can't be there for your loved one because you've got to go a completely different route now to try and sort it out.
There are two different lasting
Yeah.
powers of attorney, isn't there? So I know this is how we met Simpler Law. I dealt with them for my mum's lasting power of attorney way before they came here to shop on TV. And it was honestly so simple. They made it so, it was just a sit-down conversation like we're having tonight, and you think, oh, I don't know if I'll know, I won't know what everything, and they've got all the questions, and you have all the answers without even thinking. But when we sat down and spoke about the first one, which we're going to talk about, which is the financial side, that's what we'd come to speak to you about first of all. So we would, definitely going ahead with this. So could you talk us through this one, if you would, and then we'll explain the other one.
Yeah, so with your property and financial affairs, it does what it says on the tin. It allows somebody to deal with your property, so where you live in, selling the property, perhaps if you have lost capacity and you're going into a care home, and other day-to-day tasks such as doing the weekly shop or paying the window cleaner or the gardener. And it could even come down to things such as accessing your bank account for those things.
Yes.
Again, something you don't think about. What we were just talking about, this document allows somebody to do that in the event that you do lose capacity.
What you said at the beginning, what it says at the bottom of that page there, essentially you choose someone that you trust to manage your affairs, and in the eyes of those institutions we're talking about and the companies that they deal with, they become you, literally, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And again, another important reason to have that, because you want somebody
that
you trust and who knows you.
Yes.
Exactly, and this is what I mean. It comes back to your document again. It's all about who you choose to do that, because if not, it might not be somebody you want to do that.
That you would choose, gosh. And then the second one.
Yeah, when you told us, we didn't know about the second one, but obviously just sitting down chatting, mentioned the, sort of the health side to things. I was like, oh, I didn't realise. And when you told us about that, when I was to Mum, I was like, that is just as, or actually, I think it's more important. We've got to do both. So we ended up doing both.
Exactly, yeah. So again, it's something that you hope you never have to think about, but dealing with your healthcare, such as speaking to the doctor on behalf of that person. I have to do it for my mum all the time. She won't always understand what they're talking about or things like that. I have to sit there, listen, and then explain it to her, and I deal with the doctor for her. But without that document, I can't do that.
No.
So,
and it's like if you ring someone and you say, I'm dealing with this, and they say, are you the account holder? Yeah. And if you say no, everything stops.
Well, I rang the hospital the other day, and they were like, it was exactly that. And it was only to change an appointment. I wasn't going to, it wasn't about, tablets or anything. It was to change an appointment. And they were like, I'm sorry, is your mum there? And I was like, well, no, I'm not seeing her today, and I wanted to do it now. And so until your mum is there to say it's okay for us to speak to you.
Human nature's strange, isn't it? Because when we want to do something, we know it's right. We're like, why can't we do this? And yet, if you got a phone call saying someone's just changed your mum's appointment, you're like, why would you let that happen? We can't have it all ways, and that's, forgive the pun with power, but the power in the lasting power of attorney is you donate your power to somebody that then has that authority to make those decisions for you. And life does throw you that curveball. You've got the peace of mind that it's someone that you've chosen, or it's people that you've chosen to actually step into your shoes. And then, yes, they can honestly answer those questions. They do have authority to act on your behalf. And that doesn't make a bad situation better, but what it certainly does is it doesn't make a bad situation worse. It's a bit like, we know there's an inevitability to a will being read. And having a will obviously doesn't make the bereavement any easier, but it doesn't make it any worse, because she made a will so everyone knows what's now going to happen. And if you're incapacitated, having a lasting power of attorney doesn't mean that someone isn't going through a really difficult time trying to care for you because you're incapacitated, but they're now not having to deal with courts, and they're not having to deal with institutions that they can't deal with. They haven't got this additional burden. So I call it the what if document. It's a document you want to have and hope that you never need to use it, but what if? So that's why we encourage people to put this in place. Once it's in place, it's up to you whether you register it with something called a body called the Office of the Public Guardian straight away, because it does have to be registered with a government body. There's an additional fee there, which at the most is £92. That's all it is per document. In some cases, it's half that price. In some cases, it's free to register it. But that document has to be registered before it can be used. But before it can be registered, it has to be drafted, put together, signed, dated and witnessed correctly, which is where we come in to help you get that document. Truthfully, do it and then hope that it's never needed.
That's it.
That's definitely
we don't insure our car and our boilers. We don't insure things around the house hoping that something's going to go wrong. We do it just in case something does.
And if it's not in place, this is the other thing, isn't it? If you don't have lasting power of attorney in place, well, it's court of protection and the costs can be crazy.
Astronomical. Yeah.
So you then have to put yourself forward to look after
somebody does,
the loved one.
Yeah. So if I was incapacitated yesterday and Jeannie didn't have lasting power of attorney, I'd like to think it would be my wife that goes to the court of protection to try and take control of my finances. There's no guarantee it would be. But you're hoping that it's someone that applies for a deputyship order that you would have chosen for yourself.
You trust.
But of course, in the same way we talk about wills and you can put exclusions in your will because, you know, fridge magnets that say friends of the family that you choose for yourself are there because blood isn't always thicker than water. But there have been situations where estranged family members have tried to gain control of the finances.
Oh, God.
And you don't know whether that's genuinely trying to make amends and be nice or whether that's not the best intention. But the fact of the matter is, if someone has to go through the court of protection, they're paying thousands of pounds in fees, even if they do it themselves and don't use a professional, but also it can take up to a year for the application to be completed.
So this is an idea of cost, which obviously you're going to have to find because you can't use your loved one's money.
And this is you doing all this. This is with no
on
professional advice.
Yeah. And if you've ever seen a court application,
I can imagine.
No.
I can imagine the thickness to it and pages of.
And you can see there part of that fee structure as well. There's an annual supervision fee. So if you are accepted as a deputy and you're granted the deputyship order, you then have to pay an ongoing fee because you're still supervised by the court every year to ensure that you're actually adhering to the terms in the deputyship order.
I mean that's bad enough, but you're in this awful situation where your loved one is really poorly and all you want to do is be by their side, caring for them, loving. And you say it can take a year for you to get this sorted.
Yeah. Sadly, some people pass in that period.
Must be. That's what I was thinking.
And all your focus is trying to get that sorted, not spending time with your loved one.
And you've lost that time with them because you've been busy trying to sort.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the reason I say that having a lasting power of attorney doesn't make the situation any easier, when I say it doesn't make it harder, is whether it's registered ahead of time or registered there and then at the point of need, that person's donated their power to you and you can care for them. That's it. If there isn't a lasting power of attorney, your attention inevitably then has to go to the court of protection to basically apply for this deputyship order to try and get control that could have been given to you without having to do that. And that's the difference is one, right, I just step into your shoes and we look after you. The other is now I've got to deal with the court. And of course, there's no guarantee they are going to grant you the deputyship order.
After all that.
There's plenty of hoops to jump through to get there because they're out to protect the vulnerable person. So it's meant to work, but just have a look at it yourself and see how many times it's tried to be overhauled by the justice system. The fact it's taken a year is ridiculous, but that's where we're at, unfortunately.
And the fact that you've got the professional advice, because when Hayley did lasting power of attorney with her mum, you still have to have a wet signature on these documents.
And it has to be signed in a certain way, and you explain it all really simply. You even got a video to watch, so you know you're going to do it exactly right. And we thought we had done it exactly right, but you noticed when we sent it in that the lady my mum had lived next door to from her being born, we'd known her forever, and we'd known her as a certain name. We didn't know that was actually her middle name. None of us realised that. She was always called by her middle name for some reason. But she signed one way, it wrote another way, and you noticed that. We're like, well, these don't marry up. They might question this.
Yeah, and the Office of Public Guardian, by definition, is there to protect and make sure that everything's done right, and it's quite bureaucratic. So if there are any mistakes or any inconsistencies, they're really well known for rejecting registrations. And of course, it's better to have it rejected ahead of time when you've got capacity and can fix it, like we did with your mum.
Yeah.
But if it's rejected at the point where you...
Too late again.
Yeah, too late again. So again, sometimes people, same with a will, you can do a lasting power of attorney yourself, you can. But you've got to make sure it's signed, dated, witnessed correctly and registered correctly as well. So you've got to go through that process. So again, we offer that hand-holding service, again, not in a patronising way. We offer a free validation service to the point where we say, this is going to work. This is going to work at the point of the need. Or you can ask us to register it for you and make sure that it's there in place. But these are all personal choices. Again, this is personal preference. sometimes clients will do it and say, well, we'll just keep it for now because, you know, my son's 17, we might want to add him as an attorney in a couple of years and that kind of thing. But the thing is that's not a reason to put off doing it now.
No.
Yeah.
So you can do it now and then you can update it as and when things change. The important thing is to get these things in place now and then forget about them.
And hope you never have to use
Yeah,
That's the key. That's
we
the
put
key.
ours mums away. Don't ever think about it apart from when we do a show. It's, you know, and it was a weight off both of our shoulders. You just know it's in place. You know it's there if you ever do need it. And this is the time to do it because it's also so affordable. And it is that hand-holding situation with Simpler Law. They make it so easy. And honestly, get in contact right now because this is a deal you can't afford to miss out on. Price-wise, whatever you're looking at tonight, we're talking about lasting power of attorney right now, but of course we've got the will deals as well. All these prices are special deals with an extra 20% off up until close of business on Friday. However, Friday comes and goes very quickly, doesn't it? And all of a sudden, you'll have lost, you'll have missed out. Do it right now. You don't need any information. All you need to do is get in contact and say, I would like to get a will sorted. I'd like to get my lasting power of attorney sorted. And then you've actually sort of frozen these prices. You've secured these deals.
Yeah, the family estate will should be £249 on a suggested retail price. Our offer would have been £124, but they've managed to give us that extra 20% off only until close of business on Friday. So it comes down to less than £100 to write your legally binding will with all of your wishes in there. It's taking that first step, and at less than £100, it takes away the worry of the affordability. Comes down to £24.75 on your first of 4 interest-free payments if you want to spread the cost. And think what you spend £24.75 on in an instant.
Oh gosh, in an instant. Coffee, probably. You know, there's so many things. There's the, you know, it's nothing, is it? But actually, it is so much. You've got your will sorted. And remember, these prices, I think we've only ever done the 20% off. I think this is the 3rd time. So do please grab this deal whilst you have got the opportunity. You've then got the lasting power of attorney, which we've just been talking about. Should be £349, virtually £350. Should have been tonight our special price of £239. But of course, you have got that extra 20% off, so £189, which is it's so affordable when you split the cost, and it's just so important to have these things in place. You can split that cost with 4 payments, £47.25. 4 payments, it's done, it's paid for. You can forget about it, but you've got that peace of mind that it's there if you ever do need it. We struggle to get a takeaway for £47.25, and again, it's money so well spent. And then if you have already got in contact and now you're thinking, oh, I didn't realise about lasting power attorney, I wish I'd done both. If you get in contact and secure these prices, if you change your mind and you want to do the will and lasting power of attorney, they will honour that price as well. So should be, well, nearly £600, £598. Our price should have been £315, but you've got that extra 20% off, so £249. You're saving more than you're spending.
Way more.
And you can split that cost as well.
Yeah, £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments if you go for the will and lasting power of attorney. Remember, you don't need any documents. You don't need to know anything. This is just about securing the offers that we've got for you. Plus, the first 250 clients will also receive that book, What My Family Should Know. That's worth £25. It's a book where you can record everything that you want your family to know, like your pensions, your bank accounts, like your digital accounts. It's so easy to get in touch. You can scan the QR code on screen if you so wish. That'll take you through to those exclusive offers. You can go to the website simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. That takes you through to those exclusive offers as well. If you want to call the team in the call centre, they're there right through till 3 a.m. If it's after 3 a.m. and you're watching on the +1 channels, just go to the website or text. But the call centre number is 0333 600 2600. Again, you don't need any documents with you. You're just securing the offers.
No, they're great on the phones. You might have a couple of questions. They can answer them, but I know they have been busy tonight. What they'll do is just take your details, get in contact with you in the next couple of days to sort out a date that's convenient for you. Even if it's 3 weeks down the time, you know, perhaps you're busy for a couple of weeks, that's fine. Just make sure you secure these prices, and then you can say, well, could we do it on such and such a date? And they'll sort that out for you. And I think the easiest way, perhaps you don't want to speak to anyone, perhaps you're about to go to bed, perhaps you're about to go out to work, just text. This is so... I do all the competitions like this. I've never won one of them. I'm meant to win again on what's it gone up to? I think it's 600,000 this week, but I know they won't ring. But what you are a winner tonight because you've secured all those prices by just texting the word will to 66777. And that's so easy to do. And what you've done, I think the biggest thing is it's not even just about securing those prices. It's actually that you've taken that first step. We're rubbish. I don't know what it is. I think we're time poor. We're always busy. We forget. Life gets in the way. Suddenly it's spring, then it's summer, then it's Christmas again. You think, oh, I was meant to do. We were going to do that at the beginning of the year. Sometimes it's just that first step that we're so bad at. And once you've done that and secured those prices, you've got that peace of mind. You are going to get that will sorted, that lasting power of attorney sorted.
You've started that process, haven't you?
It's so important. Honestly, I think you're watching for a certain reason right now. And if you haven't written that will, if you haven't done that lasting power of attorney, you're thinking, hang on, I can't not do it now because I know what happens.
I've seen this.
Sometimes the planets align, I think.
Yeah. I think it is. That's the reason we did. We had no idea, will-wise, that there was a government will that wouldn't have cared how long we'd been together, even though we've been together 35 years this year. And though both our families know what's ours is ours. So if anything happened to Sean, it'd be mine, or anything happened to me, it'd be Sean's. But that government will instantly, in an instant, would have disagreed with that. Yeah,
it sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud that there is absolutely no provision for unmarried partners. So it doesn't care about you at all.
No.
And that's partly, I think, because they were originally introduced in 1925.
That's crazy,
so,
isn't it?
You know,
so 100 years ago.
Yeah. So society was just a little bit different then, I think.
This is what we're seeing on the screen. Rules of intestacy, or the government will, as we refer to it. And it's just a series of yes-no questions, isn't it, Ian? So imagine it was us.
Yeah.
And we're not married, and we hadn't got a will. So what would the process be?
The flow chart would start, so whichever one of you passed away first. If one of you passed away yesterday, the first question would be asked of you, are you married or in a civil partnership? It wouldn't ask whether you're in a relationship, are you in love, how long have you been together? It really is yes or no. Are you married or in a civil partnership? The answer would have been no. And then it would say, do you have any children? If the answer is no there, then it's do you have any parents? If the answer is no there, then you're down into brothers and sisters.
So it just goes down your bloodline? It just
keeps going down the bloodline. And the important thing to bear in mind about your bloodline is, as unmarried partners, it was always only ever going to follow the first person to pass away their bloodline, because we've ignored the unmarried partner. But with a married couple, if you've got children from different relationships, the married question might be yes, and then it goes to the surviving spouse. Then when they die, it's going to follow their bloodline. So if you've got any children from a previous relationship, they call it sideways disinheritance, because your estate's moved down to somebody else's bloodline. And that happens, sadly, all the time. And again, people are shocked by it, and understandably shocked, because they don't see their family as two individual bloodlines. They see their family as a family. And presumed, probably, that obviously it would go to all of the children. Perhaps even discussed it. Over the last 3 decades, I've realised that the assumption, the presumption, I've realised that it's actually more of a hope. Because when you do sit down and speak to people and say, well, why did you think that was going to happen? They can't really tell you. It's not... Every now and then there's a pub quiz champion. Every now and then there is a pub quiz champion who's an expert about everything. Is an expert about everything, who might tell a couple such as yourselves that you don't need to worry because you are common law husband and wife. We did think we were common law husband. But why did we think that? I don't know. It's just a misconception. I've never done a quiz, so I don't know. Someone will have said it at some point, or it will have been mentioned in passing at some point. And the 2-year thing, if you've lived together for 2 years. Yeah, I know I've heard that in the past. We've heard them all, but unfortunately, and you know, those misconceptions can be quite catastrophic, truthfully, because it's like, oh, we don't need a will. We'll be fine because we're common law husband and wife, or we don't need a will because we've been together for 2 years. We don't need a will because the reality is, if you want to make sure that everything you've worked hard for, when you pass away, goes to the people that you want it to go to, in whatever shares you decide, you know, and if you've got gifts or specific wishes elsewhere, if you want to make sure that what you want to happen happens when you're no longer here, the only way to do that is to make your own will. And then you remove the rules of intestacy completely, and your last act on planet Earth is your own. It's the reading of your will,
It's your last gift, isn't it? It's what you
100%
wanted
it's your
to
last
happen,
gift,
what you
yeah.
worked so
I love
hard
that.
for.
It is your last gift to your family. It's incredibly selfless. You will get something out of it when you go through the consultation, truthfully, because you'll find it quite interesting, because it's about you and it's about your family. You'll find it quite cathartic. People are often shocked because sometimes they might have a bit of a laugh along the way. They're like, I don't know why I'm finding this funny because I'm talking about when I pass away. But that's a really tiny part of what we do. We want to know about you, we want to know about your family. And yes, we take you to a dark place for 30 seconds and say, if the worst had happened yesterday, what would you like to see happen with everything you worked hard for? And then we make sure that is what happens. The rules of intestacy is quite the opposite of that. It's a default position. If you die without a will, the default position is, right, how can we quickly distribute this estate legally?
No care, no.
And if that
thought.
didn't exist, there'd be absolute anarchy. Because sometimes
because you're a bit like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But then there's
Has
got
to be something,
hasn't there?
everyone would be fighting over every single penny all the time. So there is, there's option A and there's option B. Option A is you pass away without a will. The government will give you one. Option B, which has got to be the favourable one, is you pass away having made your own will, and then your last act, your last gift, as you said, Hayley, which I love, the last gift to your family is, look, I've been incredibly selfless. This is now what I want to happen with everything I've worked hard for. And your last act is yours. You chose the people that are going to administer your will. You chose at what age your children are going to inherit, if
There's
that was
so
relevant.
much you can do with. I think that's another reason why to sit down and to chat with you about. And it is just you sit down and you chat. You've got all the answers, and Simpler Law have got all the questions. But I think there's so many things we didn't realise you could do. And instantly, you just think money, and you might think, well, I haven't got anything, but you might have it in property or in cars and things. But there's so many
There's so
things,
many other
Georgia,
things
isn't there?
that you can include in your will, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Children, pets, there's so many things.
Funeral wishes. A lot of people don't think of that one. We've had some weird and wonderful requests. But
And
it's
so
things
that's
such
quite
as
a
that.
nasty thing to sit down. I think a difficult thing to sit down and talk about.
If you know what you want.
You're not obliged to do it, by the way. It's just one thing that you can. You're not obliged to. It's your will.
Yeah,
so
I think it's very difficult to ask someone, what would you like at their funeral?
I've told you what I want. It's going to be a party.
Did you see an interview with Eric Idle recently?
No.
So Eric Idle's made a will, and he actually said that he's volunteered an additional cash gift to someone if they go up and say a certain thing, which is quite. But I love all of that thing, because it doesn't have to be serious.
No, it's what you want. It's like you say.
And if you ever see an interview with Ed Sheeran's made a will, and he finds it like hard, but they're kind of perplexed, going, why wouldn't you have a will?
Yeah.
Because your last act on planet Earth is then yours. But you're right. Sometimes it's difficult to sit down and say, right.
It's the serious things, isn't it, that make you think, but
I don't think I could. Do you want to be cremated or do you want to be? I don't think I could ever ask anybody that. And if it's written in that will, they've written it.
Exactly right. So exactly right. So
Takes
it's not you that asks. Exactly.
That
it's not
horrible
you that asks.
conversation. It's there.
Takes the pressure off.
But George is right. The weird and wonderful. We've had people say, well, can I have the song "The Wicked Witch of"? Wicked Witch is dead. And we're like, we saw it.
If you like, that's what you want.
Oh my word, brilliant.
We've had a disco ball request.
Yeah.
Disco ball?
Yeah, they wanted a disco ball and make it more like a party.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But then we come to the serious things like guardianship of your children.
Yeah, because
inheritance of age that the children inherit.
Another horrible thing is something you don't want to think about, but both parents dying. And I don't know if you'd realise that in your will you can choose the guardian, the person you would want if that awful thing happened to look after your children.
Well, exactly. And again, it's another scenario that you hope will never happen, and hopefully it won't. But it's something that, with your children, most important people in your lives a lot of the time, aren't they? Well, it depends if you have pets or not, I suppose. But they're so important. And who is it that you want to look after them? With a will, you get to choose that person. You get to choose people, similar values to you, who, will raise them in a similar way to what you would.
Yeah.
And that could save perhaps a family upset as well, because I'm sure if there were both sets of grandparents, there were sisters from both sides of the family or brothers from both.
Thankfully, sorry, but
Yeah.
thankfully, very rarely, but in extreme cases, the children become a ward of court because there isn't an obvious guardian nominated,
Right.
or there is a problem. Then
Gosh.
they end up in the care system, which is the last thing those parents would have wanted.
Yeah.
So again, a really, really difficult times just become so much worse unnecessarily because all of this
You'd
can be
never do that to your kids knowingly, would you?
No, of course you wouldn't. And I'm not suggesting that parents are doing it knowingly, because that's
No,
part of the problem.
that's the-
Is they're thinking it's okay because
So-and-so will have a-
I've told our Jill,
Yeah.
you know, hoping that's enough. But then they told Jill when they were on the 5th glass of prosecco, and she said, "Yeah, it'll be fine," but nothing
Yeah.
was ever
Nothing
documented legally binding.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, people assume that godparents will be
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did.
automatically,
Yeah.
and that's not
I
the
thought
case
we'd need
either.
a flat or flats because we've got so many godchildren, haven't we? I thought, my word, we're going to be in a situation, but that's not legally binding. That's religious. So that doesn't come into it. Even if you wanted the godparents to look after your children, it
You'd
wouldn't.
still need to
Have
pass
to
on your
write it
parental
down.
responsibility through your will. So yeah, you literally, there's provision for guardians, so you're literally in your will, you can say, if we're both not here, then we would want this person or this couple to look after our
Yeah, I
children.
don't think people
and
would
you've done
think
it.
about that. I think that you think money.
Ian often explains it like when you get something sent home from school, it has
Yeah.
to be signed by the parent or guardian.
Yeah, I can remember that's when we were at school. That was what was
Yeah.
always written on
Yeah.
her.
There's only 2 authorised
Yeah.
signatories, parent or guardian.
Yeah.
It doesn't say, you know, Jill
No.
Yeah.
or my best friend or
godparent,
godparent.
yeah.
You've got to have the authority to do that, and you can pass that authority on through a will. So again, you know, a will can do a multitude of things, but only a couple of them might be really important to you. In some
Yeah.
cases, every single one might be really important to you. But you
but
can
some,
only
I
know
think
what's important to you when you speak
And
to us.
I think lots of them we wouldn't know. You know, until you
No.
sit down and chat to you think, oh gosh, can I do that? I
I
hadn't even
actually
thought.
do that, yeah.
I hadn't thought about, you know, my child inheriting everything at 18. You know, you just hadn't thought about it. But lots of parents wouldn't want their children to inherit everything at 18, would they, Georgia?
No, a lot of parents, they actually choose older because you're not always the most wise at 18.
No.
You've not had a lot of
Haven't lived really yet,
experience.
have you?
Sometimes you are.
No.
you think you are, but
Yeah, but you haven't always had the most experience dealing with a large amount of money at 18. You know, that's where you're kind of starting to learn
Yeah, of
how to
course.
deal with finances in that respect. So a lot of parents, they choose 25, for example, or they stagger it, or, you know, there's so many ways you can do it, but it gives you that option as well. Whereas with a government will, it doesn't do that.
Standard 18, they inherit everything.
Exactly.
Gosh.
I'm sure I'd have made some pretty sound financial decisions. I was
New
looking
haircut.
at the clothes I was wearing when I was 18, and the mullets was a win. The mullet was.
we need to see these pictures.
I wouldn't mind, but the mullet wasn't in then anywhere.
Was it ever in?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it peaked in at one point, but for some reason I decided it'd be a good
kept it.
idea to have one. Yeah, and none of my so-called friends went, no,
They
don't do
let
it.
you go with it.
Don't do it. But I remember seeing a picture of myself on my 18th birthday and giggling, going, "Oh, what a geek!" But I do, you know, you do overlay sometimes these scenarios and thinking, "Yeah, I'm not making any sound financial. I might have had a really good time for a couple of years, but I
Yeah.
certainly wouldn't have made a sound financial decision.
No.
I know I wouldn't. I wasn't mature enough. There's been a recent study that says boys don't mature now till in their 30s or something. So I'm still hoping.
Still got a way to go.
I'm still hoping.
You're nearly there.
But this all filters back to it being your choice. We have something in the UK called testamentary freedom, which means we can choose what happens with everything we've worked hard for, where it goes to, and there's so many people that don't exercise that freedom and just leave it to the government will, and it's just awful, because one, we know it's not carrying out your wishes because it can't, because it doesn't know you or your family. We know that in a lot of instances there's far too much inheritance tax being paid that would otherwise been avoided.
Yes, because of course, you know, laws like anything change all the time, don't they? And of course you know that,
Yeah.
but we don't know that as individuals.
And it's
but
our
we
job,
should.
and we ensure our advice as well. It's our job as professionals to give you that best advice. If we give you dud advice, if we make a mistake, you and your family are protected for up to £5 million. So, you know, that's how confident we are in what we do. Unfortunately, if you do nothing or you choose to try and do something yourself, you haven't got that level of protection.
No.
So it's really important that your last act on planet Earth is done correctly. And, you know, and we take on that responsibility. But we can only do it if you phone us or you text us. So please, if you're thinking about that tonight, please don't go to bed thinking about it, because you'll wake up tomorrow and life will get in the way. You were saying earlier that we do tend to procrastinate, and I think I agree. I'm definitely going to go to the gym next week.
Yeah,
I missed today because I knew I was working tonight, so I thought I won't go to the gym today, but next Monday, because it's got to be a Monday when you start going to the gym.
It's going to be the start of the week.
And Monday comes and goes.
And I've never got time to go to the gym, but I've always got enough time just to look at some videos on my phone. Yeah. And, you know, that's what we have to be honest with ourselves now. You know, if we're thinking, oh, we haven't got time to speak to these people, you haven't. It doesn't take that long. If you think it's going to be complicated or morbid or difficult in any shape or form, I promise you it won't be. And if it is, just say, this isn't for me. I'd like my money back, please, because this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Peace of mind.
It's absolutely risk-free doing this, but we can't telepathically do it. So please send us that text or pick up that phone. I promise you won't regret that you did.
We should show you how to get in touch, because it's really easy to get in touch as well. To get a legally binding will for less than £100 is what you're doing today, but only until close of business on Friday. The ways that you can get in touch are right here: simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. You can call the team in the call centre. They're there right through till 3 a.m. If you're watching on the +1 channels, go to the website or text. But it's 0333 600 2600. Or you can text, and the texting service is always so busy on these shows.
So easy, isn't it? And the job's done. You've secured all the prices. You've made sure you'll get that deal that you see on the screen. Even if you can't actually sit down and speak to Simpler Law for a few weeks, what you've done is secured the price that's on your screen right now. And I think it's that peace of mind. You've made that first step, and you haven't had to speak to anybody. You've just put will, and you've sent it to 66777. You've made that first step that, honestly, it could be life-changing, because I don't know what happens when you pass, but I'd like to think Dad looks down on us. And it could be that situation where you're looking down on your family and you'd told them what you wanted to happen, but you never wrote that will, and now the government will's fallen into place. Gosh. And sadly, everybody's fallen out. It's not. They all know that's not what the mum wanted, not what Dad wanted, and you're looking down thinking, why didn't I just get round to do it? I could have saved all this upset.
They've all been written down.
Yeah, it's your last gift to your loved ones. It's so important at a time when things are so awful. When a will isn't in place. I saw it actually on our village Facebook page a few weeks ago, and a lady put on, I didn't know her, it was just a general one, she went, please write a will. I've lost 3 people in my family and none of them wrote wills. She says they just didn't realise how difficult it makes a really difficult time already.
For everyone who's left behind.
So please, this is the time to do it. And the reason to get in contact right now is to secure the price, but also to make sure you get this book, because these always go. So don't wait till close of business on Friday. Do it right now and you've secured your book. And I said originally you should have this from birth, but it's probably a little bit too early. But from
Where
working...
do I keep my dummies?
Yeah, that's it. From working, everybody should have a book like this where you write everything down.
Now, it's got so much more than you would imagine in here, Ian. And tell us why the reason this came apart.
It was born out of our estate administration department, actually. So when we mentioned choosing your own executors as part of your will, the job of an executor is to actually gather in the person that's passed away, gather in their assets, gather everything together. And so it's finding all of that. So this, we realised, was helping people do that, because help them take stock. But as we were putting this together, we were finding some pretty interesting statistics, quite staggering actually. It's believed in the UK that there's £5 billion of unclaimed pension pots out there. So that's
£5 billion.
So that's money that's being missed basically when administering an estate. And forgive me, but I'm going to be a cynic. I don't think the pension providers are running to go, excuse
try
me.
And give that money, yeah.
Otherwise, it wouldn't still be there. Yeah. Likewise, with life insurance companies, there's believed to be £2 billion of unclaimed life insurance policies that obviously should have paid out to the families.
But people just don't know they're there.
Yeah, £850 million believed to be in UK banks as well.
Gosh.
So I know.
Signed bank accounts.
I've got, because I was thinking about this the other day, because we moved house recently, so I've had to do that thing where and then it's only when you move house that you realise how many people you deal with.
Yeah.
You know, and you keep forgetting stuff. And I've had an account since I was 18, you know, so a couple of years. That when I got my first job, I started putting a little standing order into.
Right.
And it's like my dipping fund, and it's a tiny amount, because, you know, it was more than 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a tiny amount, but it's still there, and I've just never ever changed it. But I was thinking to myself, it's all digital now. Would Jeannie even know about that
No.
account? So I've told her about it now, which was stupid, because it was the only bit I had to myself. But it did occur to me that that was one of the daft things that, you know, would that have been missed? Because there isn't a digital record of it anywhere as such.
Absolutely.
Because I'm not sure that she'd just see the little standing order going out and necessarily tie that up to there being money there.
Yeah.
So it's all these things. So it just, again, it's another selfless thing. Again, it's another quite cathartic thing. Sit down with a brew and you might surprise yourself as well. Although most people, when they do the consultation, are quite surprised, because we'll go through an estate valuation with you and we'll go, and it's worth this. I go, really?
Gosh,
Do you think we were worth very much?
Yeah.
But, you know, whatever your wealth is, whatever your worth is, make a will so that you know it's going to pass to the people that you want it to pass to. But
So
this is part of that.
This is brilliant. First 250 people to secure those offers will get that book free of charge. It's worth £25. It's an added bonus to go alongside that will. But do the will for you and do the will for your family. Take that first step, and by taking that first step, your last wishes will be delivered.
Yeah, and at great prices as well. So you can't go wrong with the deals tonight. You've got an extra 20% off our saving price. And this, I think we've only done this about 3 times since we had Simpler Law with us, that extra 20% off. So please grab it whilst the deal's available. If you're thinking about doing the will, I always thought it'd be thousands of pounds to do a will and really complicated. Well, Simpler Law make it so simple. But actually, even at full price, to know what you've worked so hard for is going to go to the people you want it to go to. At £249, would happily spend that. But actually, our price should have been £124, but you have got that extra 20% off. Get in contact now to make sure you secure that price. You have got till close of business on Friday, but I'd do it now. Friday will come and go, and you'll have missed out again. And as I say, we don't know when we get these deals back. So grab that deal whilst it's available. And you can split that cost as well. So full payments, £24.75. And I bet you spend that in an instant, perhaps on coffee, over the bar.
That's what you said about popping into the supermarket.
Oh,
and getting a pint of milk.
Whenever I
and then coming
pop
out and
into the
it's-
supermarket, I've spent £50 and I
Always.
haven't bought a meal. I'm like, what? I only wanted a pint of milk.
What's in this bag? There's
Then you have to
nothing
order a takeaway.
Which is another £50.
It's great. We spend money, on ridiculous things so easily, and that is money so well spent. Lasting power of attorney, we have been talking about that. We will go back over that as well before the end of the show. Should be £349, so virtually £350. Our price would have been £239, but of course with the extra 20% off, £189. And again, splitting that cost, 4 payments of £47.25, which honestly we struggle to get a takeaway for that.
Yeah, we really do.
And 4 payments, that is done, and honestly that is just as important as your will.
And then the biggest saving of all, if you go for the will and lasting power of attorney, as long as you secure the offers, if you change your mind and you want to add in the will onto a lasting power of attorney, you'll be able to do that because you've secured the offers. But the will and lasting power of attorney should be almost £600, down to £315 on that offer price, but another 20% off whilst we've got these deals until close of business on Friday. However, as Hayley said, do it right now. Don't let life get in the way. Take that first step. £249 it comes down to, and that's £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. As we say, the first 250 clients will get that book, and all you've got to do is get in touch, whether it's the website, the phone, or texting the word will to 66777. It's really important when it comes to a will, I think, to point out that it's everybody who needs a will.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, if you're sat at home and you haven't written a legally binding will, did you know you've got a will? Because sadly, if you pass and you haven't written a legally binding will, even if you've told all the kids what you want to happen. Even if everybody down the street knows what you want to happen. Even if, you know, we've been together 35 years, obviously what's mine is Sean's, what's Sean's is mine. If you pass without legally writing that down in a legally binding will, a government will falls into place.
I don't think anyone would realise
No, we
this.
didn't realise. No. And that government will, sadly, is, well, how can one will be right for absolutely everybody that lives in the UK? It can't, and it's over 100 years old. It sounds crazy, doesn't it? And I was like, but that can't be right. But there has to be something. And sadly, we fall at the first hurdle because it says, are you married? And we're not. But even if you are married, and it gets even more complicated if you're married with children from different partners, but you live as one big family. Sadly, it's all about the bloodline. So one half of the children could actually be disinherited. Honestly, it's frightening. And I think a lot of people, and we're not trying to frighten you, but I think a lot of people like us, you just don't realise that if you haven't written a legally binding will, you have got a will. So, and that will instantly fall into place, even if everybody knows what you want. That it's just not going to happen because the law falls into place.
And it's so important for everyone, Ian, I think, isn't it, to have a will? Because
isn't it?
Inevitably we will all use a will, won't we?
Yeah, there is an inevitability. We've never met an immortal yet. But,
no, not yet.
But no, it's interesting what you said. It's interesting the terminology you used when you said that you and Sean would fail at the first question. Interestingly, the rules of intestacy is designed so that it doesn't fail. There's always an outcome.
Yes.
But what you mean by fail is you fail each other.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's no provision for both of you. But whatever the outcome to the yes or no always ends up with a conclusion. In some cases, that ends up going to the Crown. So
don't.
Yeah. So.
See how upset she was.
That's worse.
Let's just leave that there. Let's move that.
Sometimes you hear of stories and you hear of it going to this distant relative that lives in Australia that the person has never met, and that's bad enough when you know who they really wanted it to go to. But then for it to actually go to the Crown,
yeah, it can do.
Everything you've worked so hard for.
It's designed. The rules of intestacy is designed as a default situation for everyone who hasn't made their own will, because there has to be a backup. There has to be a default position. Otherwise, it'd be carnage.
Yeah.
There'd be anarchy. There'd just be estates going. Well, what's supposed to happen to this? So there has to be a legal way to distribute these estates. Well, there's only two ways. One is when the person passed away, they had a valid will that they made themselves, great. Or the other side is the government will, which is the rules of intestacy and a series of yes-no questions, all based on your marital status and your bloodline. I know it's completely impractical, and I know it's a ridiculous thing to say, but sometimes I'd love to just grab a client and stick them in our estate administration department just for an hour and say, watch what happens when we deal with an estate where someone's made a will and how that family are, and look at this one over here where this gentleman hasn't made a will and look at what that family's having to deal with, because it's night and day. The contrast can be quite stark.
It must break families apart at a time when everyone's devastated, then for this to happen and what they know their mum, their dad, whoever it is, wanted to happen isn't happening.
No.
That must tear.
I'm always
families
conscious
apart.
that I'm sounding melodramatic, but when you factor in grief, you factor in the bereavement itself, and then on top of this awful thing that's happened, whether it was foreseeable or not, then you find out actually what you understood your mom, your dad, your loved one, whoever that may be, what they wanted isn't now going to happen. That is almost unbearable, and in some situations, certainly with the new blended families and dynamic families that are normal in today's society, the rules of intestacy will literally rip those families apart because they're not all from the same bloodline.
We heard a story on the radio. It was a celebrity. I can't remember the lady's name, but she had stepbrothers and sisters, and as a family never saw them as stepbrothers and sisters. But that's what happened. Her mum passed, so it all went to her stepdad. And then he died, and she didn't realise that she didn't get anything because it went down his bloodline, and because her mum had died first, she didn't receive a thing. And that's not. She knows that's not what her mum would have wanted.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that's unusual, but unfortunately, pretty standard for
Pretty common.
when you don't have a will, and that's why we do these shows. We want people to understand that if you think it's going to be okay, you need to ask yourself who's told you that and why you think it's going to be okay, because unfortunately your family don't want to find out when it's too late to do anything about it that actually it wasn't okay, in that, you know, in the same way that you've just described that scenario there, which sadly, like George just said, is for us it's an everyday occurrence. We get that type of phone call because we deal with clients that aren't our clients. You know, we've not written wills for people that phone up and say, can you help with my dad's estate? And we're like, oh, did he have a will? And it's like, no. Yes, of course we can help, but we've got to administer it according to the rules of intestacy.
You have to follow that. Yeah,
it's a bittersweet phone call when it's like, can you help because my dad's died? Did he have a will? Yes, you've done it. It's like, I'm sorry your dad's died, but we've got the will, right? Let's deal with your dad's will.
And when we talk about wills as well, just to remind you at home, it's not just about monetary things. It's about so much more, isn't it? We can put so much into our will.
Yes, absolutely. Some mandatory, some optional. I think one of the most common ones we get is guardians of minor children. So when, again, you don't want to sit there and catastrophize it and go for worst case scenario, but it's, again, getting the word out there and making people aware that you can actually pass on your parental responsibilities through your will to who you want and who you choose, as opposed to who is potentially available at the time, or you know, a ward of the court, wherever it may be, but you get to choose, and it's that person who you would want in that circumstance. It's the same with pets. Again, you get to choose who you want, and it's all down to you, and it just completely takes that pressure off and gives you that peace of mind that if something or the worst was to happen, you have chosen exactly what you want to happen in that instance.
To look after your pets.
And if you've got no one to pass things on to, it could be a charity that you want to pass on to. But again, it's got to be written down. You can't just say, I'd like that to happen.
Yeah, it's certainly something you can't leave to chance, because again, with the government will, it does not cater to today's, you know, circumstances, families. Everything has changed so much. I myself am part of a blended family, so it wouldn't work at all. So it's making sure you have that readily available and giving yourself and your loved ones that peace of mind.
That's exactly it. It's not just for you, it's for your family, isn't it?
Well, I think there's a deliberate emphasis on two words there, which is when you make your own will, you choose. You choose your executors, you choose guardianship, you choose at what age your children inherit, you choose if there's someone that you don't want to inherit as well. Because all too often we have families that say, look, just make sure, kids, that our John gets nothing because you know what he did 10 years ago and we haven't got a relationship with him, so make sure he doesn't get anything here. Don't worry, Mum and Dad will do that. And they die without a will, and everything goes equally to the children, of which John's one of. So you have to write a will if you want to put a non-provision clause in there.
And that's more common than people would think at home, isn't it? You shouldn't be embarrassed of that.
No, absolutely not. At the end of the day, it's your estate. You choose.
There's a whole industry of fridge magnet makers that say that friends of the family that you choose for yourself. But look, blood isn't always thicker than water, and certainly when we're, you know, helping a client go through a consultation and get their will, we're not approaching it from a judgment point of view at all, because sometimes people will, you're quite right, sort of go, oh, it's a bit embarrassing, or we're not very happy about it. And I'm sure if you spoke to any parent and said, did you want to fall out with your children, the answer would be no, but unfortunately this is what does and can happen. But the important thing is using your testamentary freedom to do something about that. You know, if you haven't got a relationship with someone in your life that would automatically inherit under the government will, well, you can make your own will and say, I don't want them to inherit. You know, and then you've done that. That's it. You've put that non-provision clause in there. You've made it absolutely clear. And again, you've done something selfless, because you're not leaving it down to your children to try and tell someone that they can't have it when actually legally they can, if you have not made your own will.
I think it's also important to note as well that if circumstances like that do arise and things change, because they do over time, things do change, relationships change, you can always amend it as well. So you can change it and have it up to date and current all of the time.
So it's not fixed.
No, you can keep replacing wills, you know, and depending on what aftercare services you use with us, there are some situations where it doesn't cost you anything to update it. So, you know, some people will make a will knowing nothing's changing. Although that makes us laugh as well. No, nothing's changing. 6 months later, hey, we moved house. Which doesn't necessarily mean they have to update the will, I hasten to add. But the fact of the matter is, you have to make a will now, because that's the only time we've got. You can't do it yesterday and you can't do it tomorrow, because they never happen. You have to do it now. But if in the future something does change, you pick up the phone and you talk to us, and you can write a new will that will replace the existing one. But all the while, it's important to keep a will up to date. There might be people watching this now that have got a will that maybe is 20 years old and hasn't been updated, because even if your circumstances haven't changed, legislation might have changed at the time. That means that something in that will isn't quite right. So it's always important to sort of stay on top of that. But as a company, that's what we do for our clients anyway.
Great.
So you don't really have to worry about that. The important thing is to make that will in the first place, because that's the whole point of this, is please don't die intestate. Don't let the government be the last thing that dictates what happens to your
I don't see who the government will can work for. It won't work for us. We've been together 35 years, but we're not married.
No one would want
it doesn't work. It doesn't work for a married couple with a regular family to how you would expect it to work, because
there's monetary caps as well, isn't there?
Oh yeah, spouses aren't even guaranteed to inherit everything from each other,
which people just wouldn't realise.
No, and again you think, well, that's man, and there is part of me thinking, well, who decided that? And where did this particular number come from? And why did they say, well, half of it goes back to the children and then half of it does go back to... And it all of a sudden gets very, very complicated, when most people are relatively straightforward. Well, I want that person to have everything, then we want to go down to the children equal shares. That sounds nice and simple, and that's why people think, oh, well, that's just going to happen. But if those children aren't part of the same bloodline, if your estate's over a certain amount of money, even your wife or your husband aren't guaranteed to inherit everything. So the only way to make sure that what you want to happen happens is to make your own will.
And even if you're single, because I do think a lot of people watch and they think, well, I'm single, I'll wait till I'm in a relationship.
I don't need it.
I don't need a will right now. I'll wait till I have kids.
But you do.
But it's so important for a single person to have a will.
You still have an account. You still exist. There's still, you still have something that needs to be passed on.
And it will be passed on, but perhaps not to where you want it to go.
No, so again, you're back to the rules of intestacy. The question will be asked, were you married in a civil partnership? The answer will be no. If you've got children, no. Then it go down to brothers and sisters, then down to parents, and it might end up with some random niece or nephew, or and it would be brothers and sisters first before we go. But basically, it will follow that bloodline, and it might not necessarily go to where you would want it to go yourself. So the only way to guarantee that what you want to happen is what you want to happen is you have to have a will. Otherwise, the default position would step in. I think an interesting way to look at it is, let's be brutally honest, the government will is free. The government will is a free will for you. It doesn't care about you. It doesn't even appoint executors. Your family have still got to sort all that kind of stuff out, but it's a free will. But I dare say if we drafted that as a will and gave it to our clients, they'd be like, well, I don't want this to happen, I don't want that, I need this to happen, I need that to happen. So that's why it doesn't work for people, and that's why we've never obviously drafted a will that's anything like the rules of intestacy, because every will we draft is unique, because it's our client's will. It's your estate, it's what you've worked hard for, it's your family, it's your loved ones, you've decided who inherits, not a government set of rules from 101 years ago. But you need to phone us and text us.
Yeah, you do. You need to get in contact. I would say right now, you have got till close of business on Friday to get these prices. However, Friday comes and goes, doesn't it? So quickly. And then you've missed out on the extra deal that we've got tonight. Price-wise, whichever option you're going for, I've blown away about the prices. Sean and I, we didn't get a will till, well, only in the last few years, really, without realising that there was this government will that would fall in place. And we thought it'd be so expensive. I thought it would be thousands of pounds, so that was one of the reasons. But I thought it'd be really complicated. Simpler Law make it so easy, but actually so affordable. Even at full price, £249, that is money well spent. But you don't need to spend that if you get in contact right now, because you can secure the price actually of £99 tonight. It should have been £124, but of course you have got that extra 20% off. I think it's only the third time we've done a 20% off. So grab that. It's only till close of business now, but secure the price. You don't need any information, you just need to get in contact and we'll tell you how. You can split that cost, that's the even better thing. to £24.75. So making that so affordable, and £24.75, I bet you spend, well, on nothing really nowadays. Cups of coffee. It goes in an instant. You pop into the shop for a pint of milk and you've already spent 30, 40, 50 pounds. That is money, honestly, that's going to make sure what you've worked so hard for goes to the people you want it to go to. So get in contact for that will price. But then perhaps you've been listening to Lasting Power of Attorney. That deal is phenomenal as well.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that briefly in a couple of moments. £349 it should be. The offer price is £239. That comes down to £189 with that extra 20% discount, but only till close of business on Friday. But as Hayley was saying, take advantage and take the offer right now. Spread the cost interest-free, £47.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. Or the combination of will and lasting power of attorney, that's where your biggest saving is altogether. Should be almost £600, comes down with the 20% offer to £249. Remember, first 250 clients will also receive that book, What My Family Should Know. That's a book where you'll record everything from insurance policies to bank accounts.
And that goes so quickly. Yeah. So that's another reason to get in contact right now to secure your book as well. That's all the information that your loved ones will be hunting for. And I know for my mum there'd be so many hidey places and secret places to try and find all that information at a time when you're just so devastated. Everything is in place. And also, because the world's really changed, it's not just about the details of your pension, your bank accounts and all that. It's actually, a lot of things are digital now, aren't they? So actually it's passwords for a phone, for a tablet, and that might be sentimental things, that might be for photographs or videos that only your mum and dad have got, only your partner's got, and you've got all the information you need to find, you know, that information off phones and tablets as well. It's invaluable, that book, and it always disappears. And you don't need to spend £25 on it tonight, because if you get in contact, you've secured that book as well. And to get in contact is so easy. I think sometimes we don't want to speak to anybody right now, so have a little look at all your options, because you can jump straight onto the website, simplelaw.co.uk/shop on TV, and you can fill in a very simple form, and then Simpler Law will get in contact with you in the next couple of days to sort out a time that's convenient for you to sit down and really chat about everything.
It's all at your pace, that's the other thing.
You don't need any information right now. All you need to know is your name, your contact details, and an idea of what you want. Or you can speak to someone, because the team are on the phones until 3 a.m.
But you don't need any documents, it's just a case of securing the offers. 0333 600 2600 is the phone number. If you're watching on +1, just go to the website or text. This is always the most popular service.
So easy, isn't it?
Text the word will if your phone's in your hand right now, or just by you, WILL to 66777. That secures those offers for you, and it means that the team will get back to you to discuss your appointment, whether it's a will or a lasting power of attorney. You can, however, go through our website, shopontv.co.uk, scroll down that home page until you come to the on-screen partners, and just click on the Simpler Law logo, and it takes you straight through to those exclusive offers.
And that's really easy as well. Whichever option, really simple. A really easy form. If you scroll down, it's your name, your phone number, email. It's really simple. Do subscribe or submit, and then you've done it. You've actually made sure you've secured those prices. And then even if you're going away on holiday for a couple of weeks and you can't sit down, you haven't got time to sit down with Simpler Law for 3 weeks, you know you've secured that price, and when they get back in contact, you can sort out a day that is right for you. So please get in contact now so you don't miss out on the prices, and also to secure that book. And it's just the simplest way. Do whichever is best for you. The texting is really easy.
Now, details on the screen are for lasting power of attorney. And we're going to just quickly remind you of what lasting power of attorney is, if you're not quite sure. There are 2 different types of lasting power of attorney. But Georgia, first of all, if anybody's just tuned in and they've heard of the term but they're not sure what it means, what does it mean?
So a lasting power of attorney, it's a document which allows you to pick a person who you trust to step into your shoes in the event that you lose capacity.
And what does that mean, losing capacity?
So losing capacity, it could be a few things. I think the most common one and the most well-known one is the older you get. Say if you get diagnosed with dementia, obviously you do start to lose capacity at that point. But it also comes at any time. So, which is something, not to catastrophize it, but is something that can happen, and we have seen. For example, we had a client who was early 20s. They were in a very serious car accident and they lost capacity for quite a long time. It can happen through stroke or illness, and situations like that.
And there's two different types we talk about when it comes to lasting power of attorney. The first one is to do with finances, isn't it?
That's right, your property and financial affairs, and then you've got your second one, which is your health and welfare. And these documents, they just they allow somebody to make those decisions, say if worse did happen and you did lose capacity, and they can help with different decisions such as managing a bank account or selling property.
Because you think you can do, well, obviously it's my loved one, it's my husband, it's my mum. So surely if they're not well enough, I can go and claim their pensions and sort out the benefits and allowances, and I can sort their accounts out. Or perhaps you need to sell the house to put them into care. But obviously you couldn't do that if your partner or your mum was well. So when they're poorly, you can't walk into a bank account and sort somebody else's bank account.
No, exactly. And data protection, that's something we hear day to day, isn't it? And so you've got to go through data protection.
And even if we owned a house together, you couldn't sell that house if one person was poorly and the other was okay.
Absolutely not, because you can't jointly deal with that asset.
You've got to have the correct authority, haven't you?
You do indeed, and the lasting power of attorney is that correct authority.
So that was the financial one we just saw on screen, but the second one, we said, didn't we, when we first did it with your mum?
We met Simpler Law because I went to Simpler Law for Mum's lasting power of attorney way before they worked with us here on Shop on TV, and it was a really easy sit-down conversation. We couldn't believe how simple it was to do. But what we didn't realise, and we went for the financial lasting power of attorney, but then you told us about the health and welfare, and I was like, Mum, this is, to me, more important. So we did do both. Tell us what the health and welfare
So the health and welfare one, again, what it says on the tin, it allows somebody to deal with your medical history, appointments, doctors, hospitals. It can help with places, for example, where to live, down to what clothes you wear, what food you eat. For example, if you go into a home, my partner's nan has been in a care home for a little while, and she likes to eat specific things. She can't eat other things, and it's having somebody there to help her with all of those things and make sure she does it the way she wants to do it.
She gets what she wants, because they become you. That's the thing, isn't it? With a
could determine as well, sort of if they had to go into a care home, where that care home might be.
Might be, yeah, absolutely. So
you
again,
want
comes
it
down
miles
to
from you. You want
where you live.
to be,
yeah, absolutely. And again, you would want somebody, or I think everybody does, you would want somebody who knows you very well and can make those decisions for you. So if you do have to do a big change, for example, going into a care home, it can be as comfortable as possible given the circumstances.
It's such an important document, and the offer that we've got available, like we say, is an extra 20% off our usual offer price, so it comes down to £189. Everything that we've got on the show tonight is so important document-wise. We're just going to recap on the offers for you, and then we'll finish the live show with our offer on wills for you. So price-wise, everything's already reduced, and then we've got an extra 20% off. So the will, first of all, comes down to £24.75 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. The lasting power of attorney, that comes down to £189, but with those 4 interest-free payments, it comes down to £47.25 on your lasting power of attorney. And then your wills and lasting power of attorney combined, well, the reduced price of £249 comes down to £62.25 on the 4 interest-free payments.
And all you're doing tonight is securing those prices, getting in contact to secure the deals. Those prices will go back up at the end of business on Friday, but you'll have forgotten by Friday. Do it now so it's done. You've secured that. We know how quickly these weeks are going. I was like, oh my goodness, April is round the corner. How on earth did that happen? The other reason to secure it is for the book. The book, honestly, is fantastic, and the first 250 people will get that book. It's worth £25, but actually it's what that book contains. It's all the information. You'll write in that book, and it'll make you think about all the things that are so important to your family when you do pass. And that book always disappears very quickly. So again, get in contact right now so you secure that book. So easy to do just that, or you don't need any information, just that you want to write a will, lasting power, or you might even change your mind and say I want a will and lasting power. As long as you secure the prices right now, you can choose the deal that you want. simplylaw.co.uk/shop on TV. You can get in contact via, of course, the website, and that's really easy form to fill in. The team are on the phones until 3 a.m. So if you ring right now,
0333 600 2600 is the number. Or if you want to text, use the text service. Will is what you need to text. WILL to 66777. That's whether you want to go for the will or lasting power of attorney. It just secures those offers for you.
and that's so easy to do, and it's done. I think that's the thing we're really a bit rubbish at, isn't it? Is that first step, getting things moving. And when things are moving, everything is, honestly, Simple Law make it so easy. It'll be a weight off your shoulders. You think, why didn't I do that ages ago?
And you might have been thinking about it, but just never got round to it.
Or you might have not realised, if you haven't written a will, that you have got a government will that falls into place, and that's not what you want to happen.
And this will happen if you do not have your own will. This will happen to you. And it's just a series of yes/no questions that literally follows your bloodline, doesn't it?
And it's no good if you're like Sean and myself. We've been together 35 years, probably longer than some married people, but actually the first question is, are we married? And we're not. So even though everyone in our family would know what's mine is Sean's, what Sean is mine, that isn't what the government would make fall into place, because they would follow these yes or no questions. It's not right if you're married, you know, with 2 children from both your partners. It's not right, especially if you're married with children from different relationships, and though you live as a combined, you know, family, and you're not stepbrothers and stepsisters, they're not stepchildren, you're one big family. It's all about bloodline, and it can, honestly, that government will. And I understand, because Ian, you've explained there has to be something.
Yeah.
But that government will, I don't see, can work correctly for anybody. How can one will work for every person in the UK?
It serves its purpose rather than working for the individual.
Right.
Because if everyone passed away without a will and it was just left to chance and, forgive the pun, free will, it'd be anarchy. There'd be, you know, we like to think that everyone would all be amiable and it'd all sort itself out. And of course, we know in reality that's just never going to happen. So the default position of this, the rules of intestacy, has to exist to stop anarchy. So there's 2 ways that everything that you've worked hard for can be distributed when you've passed away. One is via a will that you've made yourself, where you've put the input into the will. It's your estate. You've chosen who's going to administer it. You've chosen where everything you've worked hard for is going to go. You might have even specified things in there like specific gifts. You might have documented things like your funeral wishes. It's personal. And the key is it's your will. You chose what was going to happen. The second you've got a valid will means you don't need the rules of intestacy. But if you pass away without a valid will, the default position, we're back to the rules of intestacy. And when you say it doesn't work for anybody, you're quite right, because it's not designed to. It's designed to work for the system, and the system is right. We need to deal with this estate. They died without a will, so this is the mechanism for doing that. Let's ask a series of yes/no questions that are guaranteed to lead to an outcome. That outcome may be what the clients wanted, but very rarely is. And even if it isn't, it doesn't matter, because that's the system.
That's what's going to happen, yeah.
And again, that's why we do these shows. We do these shows, say to people, look, if you don't have your own will, it's not as simple as that. There is a second decision happening. If you choose...
You're not sort of told that, though, are you? We didn't know that.
It's not widely reported, if you like, or explained. But if basically you make a decision not to write your own will, whether you know it or not, there is another decision happening on the other side of that coin, which is you're deciding to accept the rules of intestacy. And no matter what anyone else tells you, that it'll be okay, or I'm sure it'll be fine, or I'm sure that's not the case.
The kids will sort it out.
Yeah, so. I promise you, there's only 2 ways to administer an estate. It's either via your own will, or it's via the rules of intestacy. There is no other option.
And that's down a bloodline. That's, you know, you often hear about someone passing and you think, oh, what happened to everything? And it all went to a distant relation in Australia that they'd never met because it went down the bloodline, and perhaps they wanted to leave it to a friend, perhaps they wanted to leave it
There were
to
certain
charity.
TV shows that built their premise on that, finding long-lost family members and tracking them down and saying, your great-uncle's dog's brothers, sisters, aunties, twice married cousin died and they left you £2.70, but it made for an interesting TV show.
But then if you are married, especially, I mean, it doesn't work for us because we're not married, so the government, you know, rules are not for us. That, you know, that it's not going to work for us. But actually, if you are married, and especially if you're married with children from different relationships, it could pull the family apart because it goes down the bloodline. So whoever dies first in that relationship, it goes to the husband, the wife, and then when they die, it will only go to their children.
Their blood children, not the stepchildren.
No. So those children from the partner that died first miss out on anything. And you think that can't be right, but that is how it is.
Because it's all based on a mechanism that was designed 101 years ago when society was very different. It's not deliberately looking to rip apart blended families and dynamic families, but they have tried. The government it's had a couple of reviews, and the only thing that's really changed are the amounts that spouses can inherit before it starts to get split up, because the permutations, again, the government can't write a will for all the individuals. So
when you explain it, because you do think it's so wrong, that's so wrong, but then you explain
what
that
other
there's got to be something, hasn't there? And
so the two options are you leave it to the individual to write a unique will for themselves through a company like ours, and if they choose not to, or no one tells them that they should, they end up with a government will, which means their estate still gets distributed. But with their own will, what they want to happen happens, and it's their last act on planet Earth. It's their last gift to the family.
It is their last gift to the family.
Without a will, their last act, everything that happened to what they worked hard for, isn't theirs. It's a set of rules that is the same for every other person in the UK that didn't make a will.
And you can put so much into a will. It's not just your finances.
Your document.
And you've probably got more than you thought with your house and your car, but actually it's your pets. It's your children. It's when your children inherit. Honestly, there is so much you can do with a will, but you do need to get in contact. I would say right now, before you go to bed, before you go out to work. Sadly, we're coming towards the end of the show. I could do this show for hours because I just find it so interesting. And I just think it's so important you realise that there is a will out there if you haven't written a legally binding will, and it's not the will you want. And also, we thought writing a will would be so expensive. It's so affordable.
All the offers that Simpler Law bring us are so affordable. We'll just remind you of those offers before the end of the show, because you've got an extra 20% discount until the close of business on Friday. But like Hayley said, like Ian said, do it right now. Don't let life get in the way. If you want to go for the will, it should be £249. With the extra discount, it comes down to less than £100. It's £99.
And then you split the cost, £24.75. That is nothing, is it? And that's your will sorted, professionally written, so you know what you want to happen is going to happen. Lasting power of attorney, we've been talking about that as well, should be £349. That with the extra 20%, which is a special for the show this morning, £189, and split that cost over 4 payments. £47.25 is your price, or you can combine the two.
All brilliant offers. Take advantage. simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. But if you want to text the word will to 66777, you've done it. You've taken that first step, whether it's will or lasting power of attorney.
Even our producer has done it tonight.
She's
like,
straight on
I've
it
done
tonight.
it. I text the word will.
Brilliant.
And it's done. We all need a will, so do it right now.
Got to say a huge thank you as always to Ian and George for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Lovely to see you both. Thank you to you at home for joining us as well, but take advantage of those offers and do it right now with Simpler Law.
See you later.